Arrest him.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Sunday, June 23rd, 2019. This is your award-winning Gitmo Nation Media Assassination episode 1149.
This is No Agenda.
Back at home base in the Sir Blake Soundproof Studios and broadcasting live from the frontier of Austin, Texas, capital of the Drone Star State. In the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where I'm awaiting the 10-car Zephyr to go zooming by any minute, I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
I thought it was that it hasn't been 10. It's been less, or it hasn't been a 10-car Zephyr.
It's been 9. It's been 9, but I've noticed about starting a couple of weeks ago during the summer, it's been 10.
Is that all the producers who aren't donating that are in the 10th car? They're on their way somewhere else? Is that what's going on? Is that what happens in the summer, huh?
In the summer, they all jump in car number 10 and off they go.
Yeah.
And it takes forever. Jeez.
Yeah. Hey, I got some soundproofing panels finally.
Oh, how do they sound?
Well, you tell me. How does it sound?
I can't hear them.
Exactly. They don't make noise. They take it away. These are huge. Sir Blake, his smoking hot girlfriend had just, I guess she works at some company that does soundproofing.
Yeah.
And she had a whole stack left over. And these are, shoot, what are these? Like 1, 2, 3, they're 4 feet by 2.5, I think. Almost. Huh. Yeah. And he sent me, let's see, 6 of them. And so they're just leaning against the wall now, but when they're up on the wall, they'll be even better.
They just need to lean. It's like probably better.
But I think it'll look better if they're hanging.
I don't know. If you fall down or something, the thing leaning there is going to flow. You're going to catch your fall and you'll be okay. You won't break your hip.
Yeah, but it just looks better if it's against the wall. Now it looks like still a temporary studio.
It is.
No, it's not. No, we own this place. We're not moving. Feet first, baby. We're staying in here.
Glue them to the wall.
Well, look, I just got home and there were 2 big boxes with 3 each. And so like, after I rebuilt the studio for the 4th time in 10 days, oh, man. We got home.
Well, don't you just do the podcast on an iPhone?
What do you work for the IRS?
What do you need all this gear for? It doesn't make sense. You just use an iPhone.
Yeah, I heard you do it on the iPhone. Lots of people do it on the iPhone. You don't need this gear. You don't need no deductions for that. Exactly. Yeah, so we got home yesterday, landed. Why did we land? We landed at 2, but it took a long time to get out of the international terminal, Austin's big international terminal, which consists of a small hall and a baggage carousel.
You flew a direct flight to Austin?
Yeah, we went through this.
I thought you always went through Atlanta or something.
No, Norwegian Air. Remember Norwegian Air?
Right. I'm sorry.
We took it from Gatwick. Actually, let me take a step back. So we flew from Faro in Portugal on Friday. So the day after the show, I took down the studio once again. I put it in my bag. So we took EasyJet to Faro because we had the Saturday 10 a.m. flight from Gatwick. And so we stayed at the airport hotel. First of all, I have to say, in Europe, our experience with Gatwick and with Belfast and with Faro, at any point when you're entering or exiting the air side of the airport, right? So you're going through either customs or security or both, they force you through shopping.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, but not a little bit.
It keeps the airport going.
I know people who are allergic to perfume.
They
would probably just puke and die. I mean, you walk out of the security area or the customs area. It doesn't matter whether you're entering the country or leaving, or any country. And these airports are all the same. It's like, walk through here. You go a roundabout, and then to the right, and then finally you're in an open area, and there's more shops. But forcing you through the duty free.
We went through Gatwick last time, and I noticed that there's a lot of shopping there.
But this is,
and you have to walk through it. It's like they have some designers from casinos.
Yes,
like many of the Vegas casinos. To get to the hotel desk, you got to walk through the casino.
It's exactly like, it's almost like IKEA, where you can't just get something and go. You have to go through the whole path, and
yeah, they have a path.
So that was just odd, and so we decided to stay at a hotel. at the airport, and there's three of them, three at Gatwick. There's a Hampton Inn. There's a Yotel, which I think you stayed at a Yotel last time you did Gatwick,
in
didn't
New
you?
York. I think in New York. I think at Gatwick it wasn't a Yotel, something else. It's a little very small rooms, but comfortable.
So we stayed at the Block BLOC hotel.
I think that's maybe where we stayed.
Now I love this idea because you're basically renting this highly designed, packed with technology little block of space, which is completely designed for aesthetics. The shower, which is it was a brand shower, and I forgot. It was like
It's very convenient. It's right over the bed.
This shower assaulted me. I got in the shower, and it's very dark. Everything's dark marble or whatever, dark stone. You can't really see very well, and there's 4 knobs, and you turn one, it's like right in your face. You change that, it's coming from above. You didn't even see the extra rain shower on top, and then all of a sudden, scalding hot. It's just not built for. It was completely built for the way it looks, not really for ergonomics. I'm tripping over stuff. But it was cute. I like the idea. You check in, you check out, done. Perfect. Right into your check-in aisle. And Norwegian Air, I got to tell you, I like them.
Well, now they should give you a free flight for this promotion.
Yeah, I don't think so. They give me free anything.
Here's the thing about these airlines. If they gave you a free flight, they'd be in the red.
Yeah, probably. It was the Dreamliner, which is nice. That, I have to say, for a plastic airplane, it's a very, very comfortable aircraft. So that was really, really quite good. I asked, actually, Horowitz called me yesterday. He had just messing around with his setup again and broke it or whatever. To call Adam.
I've never seen a guy futz around with stuff as much as he does.
He reminds me of me, actually. I futz around, and then you break stuff, and then how do I fix it? And he's wrestling, but he's like, well, I just moved everything to Windows, and I had some problems. I said, what? You figured you just moved from Mac to Windows on a Saturday, and it would be easy? Is that what you thought? Anyway, that wasn't what it's about. I asked him the same question I'm going to ask you. You've been away from home, where the kids stayed home, or one kid stayed in your house, and you came back, right? You've done that. Now, does your kid then have something, like something in the fridge, a little stock, just a couple things, like a little sandwich or something, because you flew and you're hungry, and they thought about you? Do your kids ever do that?
No.
Okay.
When does that ever happen?
3 out of 3. I just want Horowitz had the same answer. I was just wondering. I had high hopes.
Well, you're a dreamer.
I'm an idiot, apparently.
You're lucky you get picked up at the airport.
Not even that. She was asleep at home.
Screw it.
Yeah. Oh, well. So it's not just me. Good. It's good to know. All right. I do have a lot. Oh, actually, while we were talking about airports, again, all this facial recognition stuff that we went through at all of the European airports, and it almost seems a little unsophisticated when you come back to the States, and it's just not organized well. And Austin Bergstrom Airport they had a luggage problem. I saw in the council meeting that there's $2 million earmarked for the new baggage handling system, and I figured out why. They had 4 international flights come into this new international terminal, which isn't really ready yet. It's kind of off in the corner, and the bags got clogged up. They were clogging up down at the bottom. There's bags literally flying through the air as they pop down, hit another bag, and then the thing stops, and then there's no one to unclog it, so passengers are clamoring up the baggage carousel and tossing stuff, and people are cheering when it starts again. It was a nightmare, nightmare. And then we got one of our 2 bags, and then let me just say.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you just came off on Norwegian Airlines, there seems to be a problem with the bags somewhere further up in the system, and they'll have to unclog that, so could take a while.
So we waited like an extra 45 minutes just for one bag because it was clogged somewhere else. Not prepared here in Austin. Not ready for the onslaught. But Delta, who I used to love flying, I used to fly Delta from Austin to Atlanta, Atlanta to Europe, and typically to Schiphol, and then from Schiphol you can get anywhere you want. And now that we have this direct flight, which is cheaper than the Delta/KLM, I prefer to go to the UK. But there was an interview with the Delta CEO, Ed Bastian, and I don't know if you saw that they had a problem recently where they couldn't board anybody. Their
glitch.
Yes, it was a glitch. Their boarding or their app, which most people use these days. I don't. I like to print them off, and I don't have a phone with an app to use anyway, so I just scan it from my piece of paper.
I detest those people using their phone for this sort of thing.
Well, it's pretty much standard fare now. The app was no longer bringing up boarding passes, so they had to resort back. Well, do you have can you prove that you were on the previous leg? So the huge delay. Big problems, but don't worry, we're the technological we're the technological aviation company. We're an airline of the future.
Terminal F is our latest international concourse. We put it up a number of years ago, and we've just converted it to a full biometrics facility. So when you get out of the car, you never have to show your papers. Because we use facial recognition on the way in. You can check in, you can check your bags all through facial, go through security.
By the way, I cannot get through this clip without laughing every single time this jamoke says facial. He just keeps saying, well, we do facial this and facial that. Does the guy ever watch porn? Does he know that this is just not an okay thing to say?
Go through the checkpoint, board the plane, and go off to your international destination. And when you return, you have those same opportunities. The next big thing for us, obviously, is the domestic TSA, and we're working with TSA on checkpoint. Anything we can do to expedite. It's not only more effective, but it's also more efficient. Clear we have already with pre-check, but this is a separate technology that we've worked together with CBP on. We're still rolling out.
CBP is Customs and Border Patrol, so they're in cahoots. They're colluding with the government on facial.
Out international, but I think they're going to be fast followers.
Okay. So it sounds like it might be a 3 to 5 year journey on this.
Hard to put a timeline on it because it's really the government needs to own the technology. They own the actual asset. We operate with them.
Any pitfalls that we need to be aware of going into something like that?
Let me think. What could possibly go wrong? What kind of pitfalls could there be?
Chapter like that?
No, I think everyone is sensitive about facial. And certainly with privacy being top of the.
I can tell you something right now.
What?
This guy has a bet with somebody else, one of his buddies.
Oh, yeah.
You're right. The word facial
I'll bet you I'll say facial
times.
20 times, and I won't even crack a smile, man. That'd be so cool.
He won't do it, man. Yeah, $50.
And then he went.
You're on.
And then he went over the top, and he says, "We're very sensitive about facial." He's like, "No, man, I'm getting an extra beer." Yeah.
Any pitfalls that we need to be aware of going into something like that? A chapter like
collusion?
that?
No, yeah. I think everyone is sensitive about facial. And certainly, with privacy being top of the list for technology companies wide scale, facial recognition falls into that. Facial for this with the CBP, though, we never actually retain that image. That's all through the government. The government obviously has facial recognition already because when you go through a normal passport screening, they're already matching it against the facial figure.
When were we asked as citizens of Gitmo Nation that this was okay for thems being the government, to share our facial with commercial companies? Was there an inquisition? Was there a petition?
There must have been. When you sign your IRS forms, there's probably a thing in there. A user agreement.
Yeah. It's so wrong. I'm really not for it, and I don't know if there's any way to stop it.
For it or against it doesn't make any difference. This is a foregone conclusion. Nobody's bitching about it. So if there's nobody bitching about it, there's no protests. There's nothing going on except you complaining, a lone voice. You're done.
Well, I'm going to vote with my feet. I'm not going to fly Delta. Now, I'm sure this is a losing proposition because everyone will go for it. But no.
Oh, yeah, people love this sort of thing.
It's so sad. It truly is. And I can see the writing on the wall. We're getting to a point where I, with my Nokia E71, which provides no facial.
Arrest him.
I'm now suspicious.
You are. Well, that's always been true.
We're getting to this point where you will be deemed suspicious if you don't carry a smartphone. In fact, I have a beef here.
Okay.
Joe Rogan had some guy on who I guess worked at Area 51, and they're talking about technology and how it's unavoidable and extraterrestrial stuff and how we're all going to succumb to whatever our overlords want us to do with smartphones and all this stuff. And it's just a part of modern life. This is Joe's take. It's a part of modern life where, you used to have to fight off lions and tigers, and now you have to fight off the facial. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't follow the whole conversation, but I pulled the clip, which was very irksome to me.
I don't think so. I think when it comes, we're going to embrace it. We're going to embrace it the same way you embrace cell phones, the same way you embrace television. There's going to be a few holdouts. I don't even have an email address, man. Those there's a few and far between. Good luck with that, fuckface. Go move to the woods, Ted Kaczynski.
Yeah,
go live in a
I was
cabin.
just going to throw Ted Kaczynski in there.
Ted Kaczynski was right. This is something that I think about sometimes when I get really high. That Ted Kaczynski was a part of the Harvard LSD studies. This has been proven. Ted Kaczynski, they cooked his fucking brain when he was at Harvard. And then when he went over to Berkeley and became a professor, his goal was to make enough money so that he could implement this program and live in the woods and then write his manifesto and start killing people that were involved in propagating technology.
Yeah, Joe. No. Joe, stop. Stop. Yeah, his brain was fried. It was an MK Ultra program that he was in. He did not go to Harvard to get rich, to live in the woods and kill everyone implementing the technology. I just want to set you straight on that. Being a student of Professor Ted, and you might want to read his Anti-Tech Revolution book, which came out 2 years ago. What happened is he is brilliant, saw the writing on the wall that the technological society would fail in such a spectacular fashion that hundreds of millions, if not billions of people will be affected and die. And we're well on our way. See facials. It starts with the facial. It ends with your death. And he wrote the manifesto. No one would publish it. No one would publish his manifesto. And then he said, if the New York Times and Washington Post do not publish this, I will start killing people. And he started by sending letter bombs to university deans and administrators and airline executives. Unabomber. Not because these people were propagating the technology. And they eventually published his manifesto. And he stopped killing people. That's the true story.
Well, these stories always morph.
That pisses me off. It's just Joe should know better. It becomes
whatever it becomes.
Yeah.
And it's just, okay, what? Okay, well, that's interesting. I remember I used to throw these parties at the Comdex shows, massive parties.
Key parties?
A bunch of sponsors. Sorry?
What kind of parties? Just
giant parties.
You organized parties?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, tell me about it.
So there was
I don't know this.
3 people that we did with me, Jerry Purnell, and Will Hurst, and we found sponsors and we had huge parties.
Now that sounds like a party.
It was pretty good. And so we'd have these massive parties. We'd have secondary parties. We'd have like 3 layers. It was almost like this Limelight in New York. There's a back room and then there's another one. So these parties kind of came and went. We did them for about 6 or 7 years. And then, so one day this guy's telling me, oh yeah, these parties you used to do, they're fantastic. And he's going on and on about one of the parties. He says, it was really spectacular when you came in on the helicopter. And I can't even imagine what he was thinking. I mean, for one thing, I've never come in on a helicopter to a party. I think it's cool. I wasn't going to deny it.
It's a good idea. It's definitely cool.
But I'm thinking, did somebody come in on a helicopter?
Oh, so this became a thing where
How wasted were you at this party?
So this became a thing where, hey man, remember Dvorak's party with the helicopter? And everyone goes, yeah, that was the best.
Yeah, great.
Is that it?
So these things just they take on a life of their own. It's just like to watch it just morph into something that's total bull crap. Yeah, you just saw that in a very small way with Rogan there.
Yeah. And I like Joe, but come on.
By the way, when he does that, he has a huge audience. Everybody hears him, and that's what they
believe.
That's what they repeat.
That's what they believe. Exactly.
So you have to be very responsible. If you're just going to sit there and shoot the shit.
As a podcaster, you have responsibilities.
You better be more responsible than that.
You got responsibilities and obligations. Yes. Okay. I got a little expose I want to do, but I'd like you to do something first, so I can ease into it. So, what do you got? Give me something.
You need something? You need anything? Do you want something that's going to go a long ways, or you just have something stupid?
No, just
like Maisie Hirono, kind of the idiot that is going to now go after the head of ICE.
Mr. Albans, would you send your child to FRCs?
Now, wait, we have to set this up. Maisie Hirono is she a senator?
She's the senator from Hawaii. She's pretty dumb. I believe that Tulsi Gabbard's only running for president so she can take her job the next go around because somebody needs to replace this woman.
Yes,
and she's asking somebody, the head of ICE, whether he would send his children to the not the concentration camps, which is obviously the word of the day.
Yes,
to these camps, like. It's like asking somebody, would you send your children to Alcatraz? I mean, or would you send your children to Sing Sing? Well, why is she asking? This has got nothing to do with anything, but here she goes.
I think she's expecting that we have these block hotels, BLOC, at the border, where it's a nice little cool, got all your technology, you can hang out until your paperwork is done. Yeah, that makes sense, Maisie.
Mr. Albans, would you send your child to FRCs?
Again, I think we're missing the point. These individuals are there because they have broken a law. There has to be a process.
They have broken a law only as deemed so by the president with his...
No, ma'am. They're there for violation of Title 8 of the Immigration of the U.S. and Nationality Act. They're U.S.C. 1325. That's illegal entry is both a criminal and civil violation. They are in those FRCs pending the outcome of that civil immigration process. They have broken the law.
Well, these are mainly, my understanding is that under zero tolerance, these are no longer civil proceedings, but in fact, were criminal proceedings.
They were criminal proceedings when the Border Patrol prosecuted them, but at the conclusion of that process, once the individual came into ICE custody, they would go through administrative proceedings.
I'm confused.
So she starts off by saying the only reason that we're picking people up at the border is not because they're breaking any laws. There's no law. It's because Trump said to pick them up.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, you mean the Hitler guy?
Yeah, Hitler.
Yeah, that guy. Well, she is part of a very big problem. In fact, all of this immigration, because that's pretty much all that we keep talking about, or the M5M. It's just all. It's been immigration for how long?
Since Trump got in.
Isn't that kind of yes, since Trump got in, kind of the top story. It's all immigration. And it's all about a class of people who, and it's not a single color or anything. It's a class of people who come in, claim asylum, and because of a very fixable law, very fixable, they can't be detained after a certain amount of time, and then they have the absolute legal right to be released into the country on their own. What's the word I'm looking for?
Recognizance.
Thank you. Their own recognizance, and they just have to come back for their court date, which a high percentage never does, and so that's how you get
none of the smart ones come back. No,
lots of illegal immigrants in the country. And the Democrats have been using this as a major talking point, a major strategy for one thing, as far as we can see, I think you'll agree, John, is for a new class of voters.
Yeah. And that's why they want to get them driver's license so they can show the driver's license with an address on it and the voter registration.
Yes.
People will just let them vote.
And
this is to get votes.
And
this
it's really
a Democrat strategy.
It's really that working. Cynical. It's really that cynical. That's kind of a question.
Yes.
There's no other reason. It's not really for compassionate reasons.
A lot of the real dumb ones, like Maisie, are probably sincere with some of these thoughts of theirs because they're naive and they don't see it that way. And It's just people being people, and we don't need borders anyway. No borders, no walls.
Right.
What do we need borders for?
Right.
If there's somebody who wants to come to California and work because they're going to be working and paying taxes, there's no reason we shouldn't let them just waltz in.
Well,
we don't need borders and controls and people. People aren't illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a group like that, sure. But I'd say the smart ones, the Chuck Schumers and the Nancy Pelosi's, know exactly what they're up to.
And do you think that this alienates any groups in the United States who are?
Yeah, the ones who went through the hassle of becoming citizens,
or maybe some existing citizens. And this is. I got I got an interesting DM Friday as I'm packing up the studio, and I get a DM from producer Mo, M-O-E. Mo's from Virginia. He's also Mo Facts on YouTube, but I didn't know this at the time. And Mo's black. He's a black producer of the No Agenda show. You always got to break for that because what do we have, 3 that we know of?
Well, we have the incognito who comes and goes, but he refuses to donate anymore, and he hates us. But he's a
no, he hates me. I think he hates me. Wasn't that your conclusion for some reason?
He might. He might. I think it's just general.
So Mo's an adult. Mo's 38. He's got 4 kids. He has a high tech job, and but he DMs me and says, Adam, I need to talk to you. And so for a little bit about Mo, he found No Agenda just before around the 2016 election, before it. And get this, he found the show by Googling news with no agenda. I know. And so he found the show, and he said, and he listened to a couple, and then he said, you have me at reptile people. So he was all in once we started talking about reptile people.
Yeah.
But he's been a very faithful listener, and I think he sent me a clip or 2 way back in the years ago. So he kind of reintroduced himself. He said, I want to explain a little bit about what's going on with this HR 40 and the reparations. And this is what we played on the last show. We talked. In fact, I played Burgess Owens, the former NFL football player who was one of the 2 Republican-sponsored black people testifying, and this HR 40 was intended to determine 2 things. One, should there be a full-on reparations hearing, and 2, what do reparations look like? Is it an amount, or who is it for, et cetera, et cetera? And he says, and after listening to the show, he said, I really want to help you understand a couple of things. And this wound up being we really didn't stop. I direct messaged him for probably 5 of the 9 hours on the flight. I had Wi-Fi, the free Wi-Fi in the flight.
Whee!
And so we were just direct messaging, and he really rolled out for me what's going on. What I think is probably one of the most certainly interesting, maybe important political stories of this very moment in time, not covered by the M5M at all. In fact, if anything, it's being obfuscated and with intent to confuse people who are not black to understand what is really going on. And I'll say up front, I understand the irony of a white man trying to explain the black man's problem. So I'm fully prepared to take some shit, and this is just what I understand and how I read this story, and I have some clips and stuff to kind of back up what's going on here. But this is and such. That's the term I'm looking for. This is about Black America, but the real Black America, and there's distinction because the problem for the Democratic Party right now, as we speak, is there's no unity in the black community, which is no surprise to you and I. We've been saying this about LGBTQIAPK for years. That this is not. You can't just say this group of people here is one group and they all think the same. And this goes for Black America as well. And he started off by saying, I want you to understand, Adam, that reparations in this case is not black people looking for a handout. This is not an Obama phone moment. This is for services rendered to the Democrat Party. And once he gave me that line, I'm like, oh, okay. What exactly are we talking about here? He says, the Democrat Party has kept Black Americans, and I'm going to define what that means in a moment. A lot of this are his words, and actually I wrote a lot of this down in the show notes. You can go back and take a look at it. They've kept Black America, Black people on the Democratic plantation. This is not like anything that you haven't heard before, anything new.
Yeah, you don't have to make too many excuses for this. Just roll this out, because I think everyone's on board with you doing this.
So Black people want to be taken seriously as a voting bloc, just like every other voting bloc, and they feel like they're not being taken seriously. They'd actually like to see how bad the Democrats really hate Trump. And this is not the handout that some people are thinking it is. But what are you really prepared to do for Black people this time around? Because we've been with you, we've stayed with you, we've done everything we can. And in the past, the Democratic candidates, they could just show up to a Black church on Sunday before elections and, we got the Black vote covered, everybody, it's all good. But the Black people have been taken for granted by the Dems for such a long time. And Obama, as you and I would have suspected, was the absolute last straw. And people were so done with the Democrat Party. And in fact, here's Reverend Manning. I think this is a clip we've played in the past, our good old Reverend Manning, explaining exactly the problem Black people have with Obama.
We gave him everything that he needed to succeed. We gave him everything he needed to lead his people. We gave him everything he needed to help Black people. We gave him everything he needed to change the world and the dynamics of Black people. We gave him everything to heal slavery. We gave him the presidency, and we gave him the Nobel Prize for Peace. We gave him everything. And the nigga failed.
So this is the problem. And they realize Obama was not a real Black American, has no African American roots from slavery, or the term that, and this is, I think, where it kind of triggered him to reach out. I've heard this term DOS, a descendant of slaves. It turns out the full term is ADOS, ADOS, it's however you want to say it, which is American Descendants of Slavery, which is, I think most people can point to their descendants from slavery and say, this is who I am. I'm a Black American. So 2016, we have Trump. He wins the presidency. The Democrats are making Black Americans feel that it's kind of the Black man's fault for Trump getting in. And if you listen to Yvette Carnell, who we've played her clips on the show previously, I think in February, it came down to one thing Trump said in his campaign. One thing.
What I want to talk about today is Donald Trump. You knew it was going to take Donald Trump for me to have a conversation today. And I really am disappointed. I can't even say I'm disappointed at the reaction to what Donald Trump said, because I'm really not. I really expected Black people to go in on Donald Trump when he said that we're poor, because part of the problem is that we're delusional. Like, we don't believe we're poor. We can give you all type of statistics talking about how you should give Black people opportunities. You should help Black people. But the minute Donald Trump says you're poor, what do you have to lose? Black people had a problem. And it makes no sense. Donald Trump said Black people are poor. He said your schools are failing. What do you have to lose? And that's just the truth. And, I was watching MSNBC earlier this week, and I saw this woman. I don't know who she was on MSNBC. I don't know if I've seen her before. I obviously didn't remember her. But I saw her say, well, he's being condescending to Black people, and not all Black people are poor. And I'm kind of sick of hearing that, because most Black people are poor or in the working class. Like, that's poverty. We don't have any inheritance. We have failing schools. There are no jobs. That means that we're a part of a permanent underclass. I don't care what the girl on MSNBC tells you who wears a nice weave. I don't care what she says. We're in part of a permanent underclass right now. And you don't have to trust what I'm saying to you. The only thing you have to do is look at the data. Don't look at me. Just look at the data.
So this was 2016, and Yvette Carnell, along with Antonio Moore, who is he's a lawyer, Black lawyer, and he's done some documentaries, and together they started the ADOS, and there's ADOS101.com, and they have an actual agenda, and the whole point is, hey, you want to keep us voting Democrat after all these disappointments? What we need something real, something tangible. Show us the money. And that's how reparations came into play. But if you really look at the agenda, it's please give us something that is only for Black Americans who are descendants of slavery, who helped build the United States. And the argument is reparations are paid to many groups. Jews, Palestinians. Now, right now, the New York Times wrote about gay reparations for all of the troubles the gays have been through. So there's always talk about paying people, and there's actual dollars being paid. Don't we pay Holocaust survivors still? Doesn't the U.S. pay Holocaust survivors money?
Not that I know of.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Obama put millions of dollars out there for reparation payments. Palestinians. There's all kinds of money. We're always paying somebody, and everyone's very open to that. But when it comes to this specific group, and they want to be identified as such, which is important, they want to be identified as direct descendants from slavery, not like Kamala Harris, who's Black or brown, whatever you want to call her. But people would say, oh, she's African American. No, she's not. She's Caribbean, from Jamaica and or West Indies, and from India. So they come up with this concept. And the first thing they say is, we have a big ask. And our ask is, put us in the same category as these other groups who do get money or other types of things. And we're not talking affirmative action, because although affirmative action never was specifically meant for descendants of slavery, it kind of got hijacked. Now you're gay, you can get affirmative action benefits, all kinds of stuff. It's really affirmative action, I think,
This is a never-ending Lucy in the football scenario.
Yes, exactly. So something interesting happens with the Mueller report. The Mueller report was supposed to really, do in Donald Trump, so we don't have to worry about him for 2020. And of course, that doesn't happen. So now there's panic because, what are we going to do? And we have this annoying group of people who are, calling for stuff, and then they're saying we're not going to vote Democrat, we're going to stay home. They're not saying they're going to vote for Donald Trump or the Republicans. Like, we're not going to vote for you anymore. We're sick and tired of it. Here's Antonio Moore explaining this. This is kind of the crux of his argument.
So I just wanted to come to you real quick.
It's a YouTube, obviously.
And speak on this Mueller report that just came out. I want to speak to it from a lens of being Black in America, and particularly found in the ADOS movement, American Descendants of Slavery. In no way do we support Trump, and largely we represent a population base that votes for Democrats above 90% rate. You saw that in Texas and Florida and Georgia during the governor's races, and that's just our consistent position in voting. Now, what I see is an attempt to make ADOS something it's not. It doesn't support MAGA. It's not a white nationalist-supported organization. One of the things that the Mueller report brings about is the Democrats really failed in terms of how much they were going to dedicate to this. They dedicated the energy that you needed to go into 2020 with policy into the Mueller report. Russia. One of the things that you see is that now that it's failed, nobody wants to hold the Democrats responsible for failing so bad. If Trump wins again, it's because the Democrats failed. They failed to understand how much was there. They failed to tell their surrogates how much they need to blame other people. I want to reiterate again, we don't support Trump. We're largely trying to push the Democrats, which we have done. You read the Vox article, what it quotes myself, and what it says is that basically we don't want another Obama. We voted for Obama at rates unseen and turned out at rates unseen, meaning Black Americans, particularly American descendants of slavery. And so what ended up happening is that there was an expectation for an agenda, and then everybody said, well, you never gave him an agenda. Now when Black folks giving him an agenda through us at the American Descendants of Slavery, everybody says, well, you're forcing the Democrats to actually commit to an agenda. Then they say, don't support Trump, don't give the agenda to Trump. They don't want us to have an agenda because our agenda attacks the very core of America. It makes America acknowledge that you built a group to fail. You have more Black men incarcerated than all women on the planet in America. Out of 20 million ADOS men, 4 billion women. with the celebrity cheating scandal, white women committing crimes that are tax fraud, that are mail fraud, and they're talking about they might not even get prison. We give jail to black men for small level thefts to eat. And we don't know if these white women are going to get jail or prison. This all hinged, the whole Democratic approach to Donald Trump going into 2020 hinged on the fact that Mueller would come back with indictments, if not on Trump, then at least on his son and Kushner, and that also you would have a strong statement that there was a conspiracy. We need to focus on a black agenda, and we need to focus on reparations. I'm not talking about voting for Trump. I'm talking about the Democrats ignoring us and then focusing on things like immigration and DACA. We are citizens here living under America, and we built America.
So they start this movement, and kind of like MAGA, it catches fire. Now, you and I would know it because guess what? We're not on Black Twitter. We don't see this. It doesn't trend for us, even though it should be. And they have an actual agenda, and people start liking it. It's in the show notes. Just a couple of the things on the black agenda. Affirmative action streamlined as a government program only and specifically for American descendants of slavery. They want 15% of Small Business Administration loans to be distributed to ADOS businesses. I mean, I can go on and on. The idea is they want to be recognized as an actual group that is a minority group that got screwed like many other groups, and they'd like to have some benefit from it. They've been promised all this by the Democrats, never received it. So this group starts to grow. And this is a problem because, oh my goodness, we can't have them getting all uppity, I'll just say it, and ruining our whole control over the black community. So the mainstream media comes up with this interesting little narrative that ADOS, the hashtag ADOS, is actually something done by the Russians. And here's Joy Reid, black woman, with Shireen Mitchell, black woman, talking about the trending of this hashtag.
They appear to be a human, but they have a big gap, as Adam just said, in the times that they've tweeted. And they tweet you. Should you respond to them?
Generally, no. I mean, off the back, you should stay back and just sort of watch their engagement, how many times they're tweeting, what they're tweeting about, and even the topics in particular. And a lot of the ones that are pretending to be black people, or black women in particular, who are focusing on black identity, have these sort of aspects in the ways that they're talking about language. If we saw the other day, there was an account that was supposed to be for black supporting Howard Schultz. That account was eventually pulled down, but that was a prime example of someone trying to mimic support from the black community for a particular candidate. So these kinds of things that are happening at this moment, we have to pay a little bit more close attention to it because there is nuance, but there are also identifying factors. For example, right now from the Black Identity Framework, there's a new sort of hashtag and or identity that's in their bios called ADOS or DOS, which is standing for Descendants of Slaves. So it's the indication that they are someone who was born in, as a descendant in the United States, who is representing Black America and has the vernacular and the language that people would believe is someone who's a part of our community, who's either debating about Camilla or debating about Booker, because that's who just announced, and trying to say we know who's the most, who's Black in America, and making sure that they're, sort of talking in this vernacular that makes it look like that they are in support.
Black American.
Yeah.
I did see a huge uptick in bot activity when Kamala Harris announced. It's like it just dropped like a bomb. It just happened really quickly, and she was accused of being not really black, not really black.
And that kept going. You could see that happening, but actually there was an uptick of those bots just before she was about to announce. So they were preparing for her announcement.
So here are two black women. Yeah, oh yeah. Here are two black women.
There's a bunch of bots waiting for it to pounce?
It's worse than that. Two black women who black people call boule, which is, you got to look that one up, Boule, boule. And they are just saying that the people who are tweeting with this hashtag were bots. They're not people. Yeah. And they're more black than Kamala Harris. Yes, they're black Americans. Kamala Harris is not a descendant of slavery. So when you have all this talk about immigrants coming in, and Trump has said this many times, they're taking the jobs, those sanctuary cities, they get all kinds of benefits. Black Americans are getting screwed. This is from a California council meeting just, I think, 2 weeks ago, to give you an idea of how pissed off the black community really is about the Democratic policy towards illegal immigration.
And I'm not going anywhere. Again, I say sanctuary cities are racist. All the jobs are going to illegals and to certain denominations. That is wrong. You're not going to be allowed to get away with it. Your time is going to be up. You want us to feel for your families, but you don't feel for our families. Again, the black community has literally been destroyed by racist, illegal immigration, and we're not going to have it. When my people do a crime, we get 3 strikes. Your people do a crime, they get amnesty, they get benefits, and they're not paying taxes. Okay? Publication 17 IRS. They're allowing you people to claim people in Mexico. I couldn't even claim people in New Orleans when there was a flood. I couldn't claim my people. I ended up moving down there. But it's over. It's over. Right. Thank God for Trump. Thank God for sexual. And you should be ashamed of yourself. Yeah. How dare you? Look up publication 17, page 25 and 26. How in the hell are you allowed to claim people in Mexico? Yeah. And get away with it and not pay taxes? I am outraged. I'm a tax preparer. I manage a tax store in 4 different states. That ITIN number, they're using it as a Social Security number. All of the Social Security numbers that you don't steal. And it's going to be shut down.
So imagine that you already are quite aware of what's going on. You see, these are replacement blacks. This is just like the Kalergi plan in Europe. These are replacements for actual black Americans who are descendants of slaves who built the country. And you call their kids dreamers, abusing Martin Luther King's words. Can you imagine how pissed off you would be? It's insane. So the idea is we've got to whip everybody into shape. You got to shut up if you're talking about this stuff, because we need one big black community. Because otherwise we'll have all these groups will be coming looking for their little handouts. We can't have that. I'll make all people of color, make them all black. And this is why people like Candace Owens have to be beaten down. This is Candace when she was in that congressional hearing.
Let me ask you something. Do you hate Americans with black skin color?
Absolutely not. I actually love Americans with black skin color so much that I'm willing to fall on the sword 1,000 times for them to wake up and realize that we are being lied to, abused, and used by the Democrat Party.
I'm baffled because in the chairman's opening statement, he said that you openly associate with purveyors of hate.
Yes, purveyors of hate, by his definition, is anybody that supports the president. I support the president because he's done a tremendous job in helping the black community, despite all of the rhetoric from the media and leftists who do not want him to be successful.
Tell me a little bit about how the president has helped the black community, if you would, please.
Well, he's lowered the black unemployment rate. It's the lowest it's ever been in the history. He's getting us off of our feet. We see, I believe the last number I checked was 3.5 million people are off of food stamps, something that the Black Caucus sat down and didn't applaud. Neither did any of the Democrats applaud, because they want a system where blacks are dependent on the government. They are the people that put in place the policies that broke down the black family. And the biggest problem that's facing our community is father absence. In every room that I've been in with the president, he talks about real issues, and he doesn't pander to us. He doesn't do Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Southern drawl accent and speaking to us like we're slaves. He asks us important questions. And the most important question he could have asked was, Black America, what do you have to lose? Because we were already losing under Democrat leadership.
So again, what do you have to lose? According to producer Mo, that vibrated throughout the black community. They all went, holy crap, that's not a bad thought the guy had right there. And Candace Owens is one of the drivers now, although not an ADOS spokesperson at all. She's the driver behind Blexit. And I don't know if you saw in the last 48 hours, hashtag Black Not Democrat. And it's a very similar type of situation where black Americans are saying, screw it, I'm no longer on the Democrat plantation. So here's the conundrum the Democrats have. They're stuck between a rock and the hard place. They failed to have this discreditation of Trump, and they need to show the American descendants of slavery they really care, but they can't because they have this whole immigration thing, which goes exactly against what the blacks want. So they could fix this in 15 minutes, as it's been said, just change the asylum law, and that would be such a huge thing. And I think the blacks would hop right back on the plantation. It's like, okay, great.
I think so too. And the thing is, they're not going to do that because
of course not.
The blacks are they're a voting bloc, but they're only so big. The Latino community is bigger.
Yep.
And if you keep letting illegals in and letting them vote, especially in places like California, Southern California in particular, that's a bigger voting bloc. And so what? So we lose a few blacks. In fact, half of the blacks, if you lose half of the blacks, you do a calculation on this, or as they would say, a calculus. You do a calculation on these numbers, and you have to finally come to the conclusion that, most of the blacks are going to stick with us anyway because they just don't have any other place to go. They don't like Trump. We just call him a racist, and that'll take care of that. They won't go there because he's a racist.
Right.
And so they do the numbers, and they say, nope.
Exactly.
They're not going to do anything for the black community, the ADOS, non-ADOS, whatever, ever.
Nope. You're right.
And the reparations talk is just what it sounds like.
Yep.
Talk.
Now, how disgusting is it that the two founders of the ADOS movement, Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore, were not invited to the reparations HR 40 hearing? They started the whole movement. They pushed for that hearing, and they were disinvited. It was completely hijacked. So this
is the way the Tea Party was hijacked.
Exactly. So they are pissed off. Now, the Democrats, I think you're right. They did the calculus. They said, screw it. So they don't care. But Black America is waking up. And I'll tell you, if Trump wanted to secure his presidency, all he has to do is this. Illegal immigration is hurting all Americans. The Democrats don't want to change the law. They could do it in 15 minutes. But you know what? I'm all for ADOS. That's all he has to do. All he has to do.
Forever to even figure out what ADOS is.
Someone could write it down for him. American descendants of slavery. ADOS. Space Force. ADOS. He would clench it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, well, that's not happening.
Yeah, well, maybe not. So anyway, this is just some groundwork for us to understand the movement that's taking place. And I was most surprised by the Boule Negroes, as Mo would call them, who literally are at the top of the pyramid on MSNBC, and keeping the rest of the Black Americans down with calling them bots. It's disgusting.
If you remember, that woman you played, I had that clip, but I had an extended version of it. We played it about a year ago.
I have it. I have the extended clip.
And it's one where she goes off and says something like, Joy Reid doesn't speak for me. She goes off on her.
I think this is it here.
We have a community in collapse. And why I despise the people that go on MSNBC like Joy Reid and the people that she has on her show is because day in and day out, they lie to black people. They say, no, Donald Trump is wrong. You're doing better than that. Look at me. I'm on TV. Look at me. This woman I'm interviewing, she has a company. And they say we're doing better than that. And the truth is they're lying. And they lie to us every day. And that's why I'm so sick. I try not to personalize it, but I'm sick of Joy Reid. I'm sick of the people that she invites on her show. I'm sick of her speaking on behalf of black people. I'm sick of Charles Blow speaking on behalf of black people. I don't represent black people, and neither do these people. The data represents you, though. So what I want you to do is just get involved in the data. Everything I've said on here can be proven. Everything I've said on here, there's a data that supports it. Don't just listen to people who are lying to you. And don't just believe because you went to brunch on Sunday that you're a part of the middle class.
Yeah, that was your clip. Exactly.
Yeah.
But what's the problem now is the replacement by Caribbean blacks. And And, if you really have to dive in, I'm not going to do that, but you really have to dive into history to understand who was really doing the slave trading, where the slaves didn't just come from Africa. It was the West Africans who were selling the slaves. There's different countries inside of Africa, and a lot of the Caribbean slaves, they were shipped off to London, got an education. And so all of these so-called Caribbean blacks, they are now at odds with the direct descendants of slavery. And Kamala Harris is a perfect example. And then there's just the loaded term of people of color. Imagine that. Elizabeth Warren, the first woman of color at Harvard. Imagine how you got to feel if all this is coming down. Anyway, it was nothing I didn't know or suspect, but it was an eye-opener. And then when you start to look at these hashtags, this new one, which is hashtag Black Not Democrat, there's something big going on, and it is not being covered, and it's not being covered on purpose.
Yeah, it's not being covered on purpose because the mainstream media is the mouthpiece for the Democratic Party. Let's face it. I mean, people deny it. You can go and I've given plenty of talks to journalists only, and I've done head counts, and there's like one there's like one Republican in a room full of Democrats.
Yeah.
And my favorite story is still one time I was up in some little group up in Minnesota, and it's one of these companies that owns 20 local regional papers. And I asked the question to this group, and I get no Republicans. It's like everybody lifts their hands or, yeah, we're Democrats. And one Republican comes up to me later. He says, you can see why I didn't lift my hand. And they're at the point where they won't even admit that they're Republicans anymore. Yeah. It's that bad. And the media is just rife. And that goes to the New York Magazine, all the book publishers in Manhattan. This is just a complete takeover. It's astonishing.
But it's also weakness on the part of people in general. We were in a cab on the when we go into the airport from Belfast, and the driver, he's chatty. Like, so what do you think of Trump? And, the keeper and I are like, well, it wasn't Hillary Clinton. And they see a lot of good things. His presentation is very problematic from time to time. He says, wow. Oh, you're the only, I can't do an Irish accent. You're the only one of two Americans who have said that they have some support for Trump. I said, yeah, I think the other ones are just too embarrassed. There's such an embarrassment that's been rammed into people's heads. They just can't say anything positive because
I don't even know if it's embarrassment. I think it's fear. Embarrassment is not the same as fear.
That's a good point. Well, the blacks have a problem too. According to Mo, he says, people don't have a big problem with Donald Trump. He could be, in fact, 4 more years of Trump, they feel will be good. But they have fear for the same reason. They have fear of saying it. And it's Trump, by the way. It's not the Republicans. It's only Trump. They see something there, and again, he had one quote that seemed to really resonate. It's the same thing. So there's so much fear that no one's honest, and then the mainstream media just runs on and programs everybody. Fear is freedom. Remember.
Yes. Well, it's not going anywhere, any place. It's good for our show.
Yeah, it's great for our shows that we have at least something else to pay attention to because I'm pretty sick of the no collusion. I mean,
any collusion?
Did you? I mean, you didn't clip it. I didn't know if you didn't clip it because you didn't want to play it or thought everyone had maybe already seen it. But this Rob Reiner video that his wife produced and that he directed, holy crap! With all the celebrities in it.
Yeah, all of them needing makeup.
Well, it wasn't just that.
I mean, how pale is Robert De Niro?
He looked half dead.
I mean, he is literally white as a sheet.
So there's Robert De Niro, Reiner, what's his name? Hey now. The Star Trek guy. He does that all the time too. Sulu. Come on.
Yeah, Sulu. Sulu was there.
Sulu, Rosie Perez, they dug her up. Christine Lottie. But then, Lawrence Fishburne, some respected actors. And what they did is they went in, they lied. What they were trying to do is say, here's what you didn't read in the Mueller report because you're stupid and you didn't read it. You should read it, but don't really read it because just listen to us. We'll tell you what's in it. And it's just full of lies. Should we play a little bit and just deconstruct it as we go along?
I would have been willing to record the whole thing. You're probably right. It was my thinking, well, people have seen this. I don't know if it's really not important in the scheme of things, because generally speaking, these celebrities, it turns out by studies, have very little influence on anybody. And especially when they gang up like this, and it just looks like a bunch of Trump haters. I just didn't think much of it, but it is entertaining from that perspective.
There's some parts we just stop, and if we get tired of it, we bail out.
In 2016, the Russian government attacked our democracy.
They interfered in the presidential election in sweeping and systematic fashion.
Oh yeah, there's nothing like having an actor who played the president doing this too. That's always great when you get Sheen in there. So yeah, the Russians hacked our democracy right off the bat. It's like that's a meaningless statement.
And it's a lie. It's a lie. It's an outright lie. They may have the difference between doing some what I would call fooling around and actually having an impact. And all the intelligence agencies said they didn't have an impact. So how come they always roll out these guys to say, oh, they did this, they did that, according to 17 intelligence agencies? But when the same intelligence agencies said the Russians had zero impact on the vote, they never mentioned that, and then they lie about it. I mean, it's abhorrent, these people. These people they're beyond shame. It's beyond shameful. I'm beside myself when I just listen to this stuff.
Rob Reiner tweeted yesterday, "We're up to 78 House members calling for an impeachment inquiry. At this rate, the most lawless president in the U.S. history may never be held accountable for his crimes. I gave up on the GOP cult long ago. I hate to say it, but I'm starting to feel that way about the ineffectual Dems." So he's demure. He's downtrodden. He feels like he's losing. He's giving up. He's at a breaking point.
In 2016, the Russian government attacked our democracy.
They interfered in the presidential election in sweeping and systematic fashion.
They hacked emails, spread lies on social media,
and made hundreds of contacts with the Trump campaign.
All is a part of a massive covert operation
to help Donald Trump become president.
In May 2017, the Department of Justice appointed former FBI Director Robert Mueller as a special counsel
to investigate connections.
Oh yeah, and it's so disappointing to me. I like Queer Eye. I love the Queer Eye show. But now they got the makeup queer, who now has a handlebar mustache for some reason. They got him in this video. Now I just got to hate him for this. And I can't watch the show. It's disappointing.
Connections between Russia and the Trump campaign. Mueller delivered his report on March 22nd, and it contains the most damning evidence ever compiled against a sitting U.S. president.
I mean, are you kidding me? How about Nixon?
By the way, it also contained the fact that the No Agenda show is the best podcast in the universe. If you read it, read that there.
That's right. How come you didn't say that, huh, Takei?
Yet, virtually no one has read it.
And before the report...
Virtually no one has read it because you're too stupid and you don't care, and we're here to save you.
...was even released, Trump's Attorney General William Barr lied about its contents.
See, this is the whole message. Like... You didn't hear it right. You didn't understand it right. It wasn't reported right. You got it wrong.
He told the American people that the president had done nothing wrong.
And Trump was more than happy to echo that propaganda.
Total exoneration, complete vindication,
no collusion and no obstruction and no nothing.
That is an outright lie. Mueller found plenty of evidence of collusion.
The Trump campaign knew about Russia's illegal attack on our election. They welcomed it and encouraged their help.
That's collusion.
And recently, Donald Trump, seated in the Oval Office, acknowledged that collusion.
In fact, he admitted that in a future election, he would break the law and do it all over again.
Now, this is where it really irked me. Now they're going to go into this Stephanopoulos interview, which was about opposition research, Oppo research. It wasn't about secret, help from governments. It was about I think the exact question was, if someone came along and said, "Yeah, I got some Oppo research," and Trump said, "Yeah, I'd take it. I'd take a look at it. Of course, you don't have to go run into the FBI when someone gives you some Oppo research. It happens all the time. In fact, that's how we got here, is because of Clinton-funded Oppo research." But what did these jamokes do? They cut all the Oppo part out and just make it sound like he would be happy to collude with the Russians again.
Knew about Russia's illegal attack on our election. They welcomed it and encouraged their help.
That's collusion.
And recently, Donald Trump, seated in the Oval Office, acknowledged that collusion.
In fact, he admitted that in a future election, he would break the law and do it all over again.
John, he admitted he would break the law and do it all over again. And that's not quite what he said.
I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening. I think I'd want to hear it.
You want that kind of interference in our elections?
It's not an interference. They have information. I think I'd take it.
But we knew that. Here are some other specific examples from the Mueller report.
1. In the spring of 2016, a Russian operative told a Trump advisor that the Russian government had dirt on Hillary Clinton.
This is the George Papadopoulos case. They're just rehashing stuff with lies.
In the form of thousands of emails.
The advisor then worked to arrange a meeting between the campaign and the Russian government.
That's collusion. 2. In June of 2016, Donald Trump Jr. received an email offering dirt on Hillary Clinton
as, quote, part of the Russian government's support, unquote, of his father.
Don Jr. replied within minutes.
If it's what you say, I love it, especially later in the summer.
4 days later, on June 9th.
Okay, I think we've run out of steam here.
Yeah, the only thing I was waiting for, but we don't have to play it, is at a certain
I want to say something about this thing overall.
All right, it's good.
This is counterproductive for these people. I think I remember, if you're all in, 30% of the public is going to go Democrat, whatever it is. As far as they're concerned, Trump's the worst guy ever. Any Republican would be. It doesn't make any difference who it is. Bush was the same way. The way they present this, it's so arrogant that I think they're literally turning people the other way. It's like, what is your problem? It is beyond the pale. It's overproduced. Yeah. These people look insane. None of them, by the way, are attractive. And we all know, and you'd think that people in show business would have a clue about this.
Yeah, you got to look kind of good for good show business career.
You have to be attractive. De Niro looks like the death warmed over.
Yeah, he does.
And all these guys, with maybe the exception of Fishburne, look terrible.
Yeah,
and they look sickly, and they look they look decrepit, sickly.
You know what De Niro, what he looked like? He reminded me of like a hairball that a cat pukes up.
Oh, God.
It's just that man, you look horrible.
But the point is that they're violating all their own rules, that they know better. You bring attractive people out. You make, you sell in a sales way. You don't do this. This is Trump derangement syndrome. You look insane.
And with that, I would like to thank you for your courage and say in the morning to you, the man who put the C in
any collusion,
John C. DeVore.
Well, in the morning to you, Mr. Adam Curry. Also in the morning, all ships and sea boots on the ground, feet in the air, subs in the water, and all the dames and all the knights out there.
And in the morning to the trolls, on the polls, in the troll room. That's right. It's noagendastream.com. That's where we get lots of feedback. You can check in there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We got it's coupled to the No Agenda stream, so you can chat, you can troll, you can just do whatever you want. It's a very free-for-all place. It's a lot of fun, and we like to stream live when we record the show. I get a lot of good feedback, and it's often good one-liners from the troll room, noagendastream.com. It is appreciated. And then also in the morning to Cesium 137, created the artwork for that episode 1148, which was titled Twitter Rattling. Actually, I have a clip on that later on, which was what Trump was doing towards Iran. And there were a number of different cool pieces of artwork, but we really had to go with the No Agenda wine in a tube since we had talked about it a lot. And he nailed it. It's exactly.
Yeah, we debated this, picking this art.
We did. Well, it's one of those. There were other ones that we could use at another point or repurpose for something else, and this was kind of a one-shot show. And, you could really use this one time and one time only.
Well, we have a few people to thank for show. This is 1149.
Yes, noagendaartgenerator.com is what I wanted to say. And thank you, Cesium.
Starting with John Bassano in Huntsville, Alabama, 333.42. ITM Gents, he'll be our first executive producer. Great shows lately. Always, really. Adam, get some Sharpton clips queued up, please. Birthday shout out to my smoking hot wife, Tracy, on June 23rd. Love you so much. Let this donation count towards her damehood. Almost there. Keep up the great work, guys. John and Tracy Bossano. And he doesn't really request anything, but I guess he wants you to play a Sharpton clip.
Yeah, we'll give him some karma, too.
Thanks to you, Ed. Is this Groundhog Day 2 we are watching? That was Attorney General Eric Holder, ABDs, about some Republicans at home are already beating the drums of war. Today, the Pentagon refuted that claim. And he said the American people do not want him to, quote, dwindling. They do not want him dwindling his thumb. RESPICT.
Oh, sorry. Karma misfired. Let me give it to you.
You've got karma.
Thank you very much. And Tracy's on the list.
Ed Lou Boudier. No jingles, no karma. $333. He is somewhere. I don't have his town.
Where is Lou Boudier?
No karma. Keep up the great work he does.
Good to hear from you, Ed. Thank you.
And now we need a sound effect.
Oh, woo! Hold on a second. Yes. I'm sorry, I'm lacking. I think we'll try this one.
News bomb. Akbar. News bomb.
Yes, it's the Grand Duke.
He's calling himself Archduke. Maybe he's an Archduke.
He's an Archduke.
Get confused
Archduke. Sorry, Archduke.
Nussbaum, 314-15. Drunk donation. I see if I can get a little bit. Welcome home, Tina and Adam. May the smiles and love continue with abundance.
Yes, thank you.
JCD, may the mud flats be there. The chair squeaks, squeaky, squeaky, and you and yours be blessed. I truly enjoyed talking to Eric and Austin. I reached out to Fletcher and the Pigot.
No, Ike Piggott.
Ike Piggott for my call-outs, and for the life of me, I do not know why others haven't. Not sure others will. Chris Wilson, Fletcher, and many can get involved, as do my Grand Duking coming soon.
He's very hammered.
Naming of the studio, my opinion. It should be limited to the executive and associate executive producers for the following week. The Sunday and Thursday show announced from the studio, blah. During those episodes, ideas are given and something's picked, live or later. At some point, one of you will get the aha moment, and it ends. As Vonnegut says, so it goes. Okay.
Well, I appreciate.
I just read it per se, so I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, I did have a thought about this. We were talking about studio naming rights. And, we don't want this. We don't want to have like some kind of ad. We don't want a commercial, because then before you know it, it's like, you didn't read the name right. You didn't say the studio name right. And we have to have meetings and stuff. We don't want any of that bullshit.
Yeah, there you go.
That's like,
there you go. There's
no.
that we need to hate.
But I was thinking, how about it's on a monthly basis? So like this morning, just as a test, I said, this is the Sir, I've forgotten his name already. So much for the naming rights. This is the Sir Blake Soundproof Studio, because he sent these things over. So to me, it would be anyone who donates and that has a note, $50 or above. We don't read all the notes, but you could nominate someone, something, or some kind of name for the studio. And the committee, that would be you and I, John. We have a meeting, which will take about 3 minutes. And we'll say, okay, well, here's all the nominations, and maybe it's an Eagle Scout, or someone did something, whatever it is. And then we just keep the studio name for 1 month for that person, just as an extra thing. Just something nice to do.
Okay, well, that's one thought.
Okay. We'll have another meeting later, is what I'm hearing you say.
Benta Halt, Idlish, Lady Dame of the Drylandsdek, or Drylandeck.
I think it's Benta Halt Edlich. I think it's Benta Halt Edlich, Lady Dame of the Drylandeck.
Yeah, Drylandeck. Well, it's not that far away. She's an associate executive producer from Switzerland, $233. I want to thank you and all the producers for the jobs karma I asked for last month for my lovely husband, a mainframe DBA dude named Ben.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. So she said her husband is a mainframe database administrator. There's not a lot of jobs because they're filled up by old dudes who can still do that work. And she said, gee, we're really looking. I hope he can find some. Can you give him some job karma? And I think we had 2 or 3 producers who contacted us, and we put them in contact with them because they said, we've got a gig. We got a gig for him. So something worked out and couldn't be happier. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Well, she says his work is magic. He's got the job, and he starts work on Tuesday, 8:15. Very odd time, I know, but we didn't complain. And I would like to ask for some special karma to send to him for a good start to this new phase of his life. I nearly went. I really want this to be a success. Once you're in a job like that,
you should be good. Should be set.
You're usually good to go because these big systems are very difficult.
Yep.
Thank you for all you do and for keeping me entertained while I commute and mow the lawn. Love and light, Benty, Lady Dame of the Dryland deck. I love the introduction of Lady. It makes so much sense. Thank you to the dame who introduced you to it. It's great.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Lady Dane, and here's some karma.
You've got karma.
Jim Bennett from Toronto, Ontario comes in at $212.12. Gents, home from the home of the world champion basketball Raptors. Oh, by the way, today, Jim, you and your Raptors can go over to the Toronto gay parade.
Wow! What is this?
What? I'm just telling him. I'm giving us a heads up. Today's the day. Canadavia can only be considered the wellspring of environmental insanity. Well, this is true. On Sunday, the government declared a climate emergency, a situation apparently warranting nuanced steps still to be determined by the likes of Enviro Minister Catherine McKenna. She's a maniac, by the way.
Yeah, we played a clip from her.
We played plenty. We played more than one. Maybe she would just yell through the legislation in Parliament per the clip you played a few shows ago when she told intrepid bar goers that the best way to get things passed was to yell louder than everyone else.
Exactly.
But wait, Sunrise on Tuesday saw the same band of Trudeau miscreants announcing the approval of the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion. This is a big scandal.
I haven't followed this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Trudeau knuckled under to the pipeline folks.
Well, of course.
Everyone's all bent out of shape.
Because climate crisis.
I thought we were going green. Anyway, already sharpening the pitchforks and garlic necklaces in response to the federal carbon tax fight. We hear today from a CBC poll that the overwhelming majority of Scandinavians are only prepared to pay $100 annually to counteract any outlandish global warming cooling. Hold on a second.
$100.
Big message that just came up on my screen, which we don't want to deal with. Oh, brother.
What happened? You okay?
Hang on.
Sounds like a Windows issue. Hold on.
It came up and wants to reboot my machine to install some updates.
Stand by, everybody. We have a reboot emergency. Reboot emergency. Stand by. We'll see what's going on.
Should I stop tape?
No, don't know. I just need to click a couple things here to push this off till Saturday.
Don't worry, everybody. John's got it under control. He's just going to click a couple of things and everything will return to normal. If you feel dizzy at any time, just look at the ground, then it will all go away.
Okay, we're back.
Okay.
Anyway, already sharpening the pitchforks as he goes on. They only want to pay $100 in Canada. Huh? What? WTF, he says. Those of us in the economically cozy climes of Ontario are now seeing why the rest of the country donned yellow vests and descended on the nation's capital, Ottawa, weeks ago. This ridiculous game is up here. People smell a rat.
And it ain't Nick.
What he meant is the game is up, not the game is up here.
Yes.
Okay, Jim, thanks.
Thank you very much.
And good work with your Raptors people. And have fun at the parade. Stephen Lind in Cape Town, Western Province, Zaire, or actually it's in South Africa, 20304. I haven't donated in a little while, so de-douche me right away.
You've been de-douched.
I'm not one of your sissy Austin San Fran dog idolizers, but I do have a dog, and he is epic. He travels everywhere with me, including 2 long commutes each day to and from work in my car. About a year ago, while listening to your show on the way to work during the donation segment, which I always listen to at 15x speed.
I think it should be 1.5.
Okay, 1.5. Bailey started howling profusely from the back seat. It wasn't after your dogs are people too jingle, which ends obviously with the howl, but rather after the goat karma jingle. He began to do this every time the jingle played, and eventually it became every time the karma jingle played, especially the jobs karma. Hillary. It's not Hillary. That's actually Nancy Pelosi.
Nancy.
Saying that. It is difficult to capture because NA from my phone. I play NA from my phone and I can't activate the camera and continue playback. But my beautiful new wife helped film him a few of these events, and I've attached them. I have to look at these.
Well, I can play one of the sound bits. They're all pretty much the same, and in video they're much funnier. But here we go. Here's Bailey.
Jobs, jobs, and jobs. Let's vote for jobs. You've got karma.
He does that consistently whenever the karma jingle comes on.
Wow.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I'd like a better
howl. That's a nice doggy's howl.
I'd like a little better recording so we can do it could be a Bailey karma, because it's hilarious. He does it on cue every single time. Good doggy.
So in addition to the working towards knighthood, I'd like to request from you a Bailey karma, which is a jobs goat karma followed by Bailey's howl from one of the attached videos. In other words, we'll get a better copy of this, and then we'll do it. We'll create that. Given the fact that I'm a dog owner and you are Adam, a John described dog hater. I hope you see the glory in the attached few clips and the amazing coincidence or occurrence. Otherwise, I love the show as always. Congrats on your wedding. Hearing your travel insights tells me you clearly don't travel nearly enough. So let's do a Cape Town meetup.
Good idea. I'd love to do a Cape Town meetup.
Well, who wouldn't?
Is that where white people get killed, or is that not Cape Town?
No, that you're thinking of Johannesburg.
Oh, okay. Oh, then we're good to go.
No, Johannesburg is fine if you're American.
Oh.
Cape Town is a really nice,
I'm a special class of
very
white.
old-fashioned place.
Yeah. And they speak Dutch. Don't they speak Dutch everywhere? Or Afrikaans?
Well,
I can get away with it.
Most of them speak good English. If you and John both come, I pledge to put you up and take your wine tasting once a day. Once probably. In the Franschhoek. And I won't
Windhoek. It's Windhoek.
What?
Windhoek.
No, Franschhoek is the main area, and those other places are within it usually.
Okay.
And it means the French area. I mean, it's where all the French moved to make wine.
Oh.
Most of the wine until recently has been crap, but now it's getting pretty good. You won't swap your mic out for a dildo and hide it in your bag before you leave. In other words, look out. All the best from rainy Cape Town, Steve Lind.
All right.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
Kind of did a Bailey.
Ron, he probably wonders, you added something to that one. Ron Woodbury, in parts unknown, $200 you'll be our last associate executive producer, enjoying your show in the comfort of my home, he writes, which is cooled with electricity supplied from a clean coal power plant, meeting steak from methane producing cattle, which of course was cooked on a natural gas grill. This is how we start the summer in the flyover states. All the best, Ron. I use briquettes.
I'm going to give you karma for that. Karma, thank you.
You've got karma.
So there was we have over the certain parts of the year, we have these clean the air day or whatever they're called.
Oh, we're not allowed to burn wood.
Well, it turns out, so I went and looked at the regs. I'm thinking, clear the air, clean the air, whatever the hell they call it, something you're not supposed to. You can't use your fireplace. You can't do this. You can't do that. But you can use your outdoor barbecue for cooking. Cooking is exempt from the rules. So you can go back there and torch off your oak and cook yourself a nice steak.
I torch off my oak this morning.
Don't worry about the air pollution folk coming over and giving you a citation.
All righty. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. I want to thank all these folks for being executive producers and associate executive producers for show 1149.
And these are credits that are incredibly valuable. They're not easy to come by because, as you can tell, you have to be an executive or associate executive producer. But they are recognized by people in show business, people who look at profiles on LinkedIn, and you can always put it into like your Twitter handle, your social media. It does give you standing, and we really appreciate it because just like Hollywood, we'd like to give you those credits up front and as early as possible. And thank you again for your courage and your support of the No Agenda Show. And thank you to everybody else. We'll be thanking more people $50 and above, and we'll be here for another show on Thursday. You can remember us and support us at
Dvorak.org/NA.
I think we've learned quite a lot from this donation segment, including all about Bailey.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
Righto.
All right. So what do we got now?
I don't know. What you got?
Well, I got a couple of things. Let's go on and talk about, we got this situation where World War III almost broke out.
Yeah.
And then Trump backed off and said he's going to kill 150 people. It's not worth the trouble. It's not worth the effort. It's not worth it because human life's more valuable than whatever.
Before we launch into it, on the last show, at the very beginning, we got this, it had just breaking news that Trump had tweeted that Iran had made a mistake. And in fact, this is where the title of the show came from, Twitter Rattling. And I just want to replay the clip as we received it.
Yes, this is a good. Yeah, we kind of analyzed this after the show, and we wanted to do it on today's show. And I wrote down a note to do this, and then of course I don't know where that note went.
It's okay because I wrote the note down as well. Maybe I just found yours. So here's the initial reporting right after the tweet.
The president's offering his first reaction now to the shoot down of an American drone by the Iranians last night. The president issuing a one-sentence tweet saying Iran made a very big mistake. That coming just in the past couple of minutes. At the same time, we're getting information that there is scheduled to be a meeting here at the White House to gauge response to the Iranian shoot down. The president's tweet, Iran made a very big mistake, of course, begging the question of what the White House and what the administration is prepared to do about it, if anything, any kind of response at all. I spoke to Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the White House press secretary, just a few minutes ago. She said the president was briefed last night and has been briefed again this morning on what the U.S. military knows about that shoot down. So no indication at this point of what any potential U.S. response would be. But the president, I don't think you can call this saber rattling, maybe just a Twitter rattle, but issuing a one-sentence statement on Twitter here in reaction to that shoot down, guys.
I mean, there's a reaction in the market. Crude oil is jumping on this news. WTI now up 5%.
So we took that the same way it was reported, which is, they made a very big mistake. I'm going to kick your ass. I'm Trump. I'm going to kill everybody. And it turns out it was really, it was taken out of context. We had no idea what the context was of this mistake.
I think probably Iran made a mistake. I would imagine it was a general or somebody that made a mistake in shooting that drone down. And fortunately, that drone was unarmed. There was no man in it, and it was over international waters, clearly over international waters, but we didn't have a man or woman in the drone. We had nobody in the drone.
Are you still open?
It would have made a big difference.
All right, so we all kind of know what he said there, but I just wanted to point out that, this is a real problem with this headline breaking news bull crap, because apparently all he wanted to say was, well, they made a big mistake, and they're lucky because we didn't go and kill anybody. And
well, this brings me back to somebody called me out on Twitter for doing this again, and we talk about this on the show. We try to not do it, and this
be cynical.
Communications on these online things is very flaky. It's not a good form of communication, and sarcasm in particular doesn't work because you can't get that tone in there. So you should never be sarcastic. And I was sarcastic in one of my tweets, and somebody called me out. And I had to admit that, yes, it was a mistake on my part because I try not to do this. I'm trying, and I would try not to do it on the show. It is a form of humor that, if you think you're clever, you do sarcasm all the time. And that's what Ben Shapiro's big problem is, because if you take these comments out of context, it's very easy to make you look like a doofus.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a classic example of being misconstrued.
Yes.
Now, my favorite line, I did get a funny line off of Twitter when somebody said, when Trump says, I'm not going to bomb him because I don't want to kill 150. And somebody's comment was, worst Hitler ever.
Well, he did a follow-up with Chuck Toddcast. He did a follow-up interview. I have a clip.
So did you greenlight something, or had you said, if we do it, I'll do this? What was the order you gave?
Nothing is green-lighted until the very end because things change, right?
So you never gave a final order?
No. But we had something ready to go subject to my approval. And they came in, and they came in about a half an hour before. They said, sir, we're about ready to go. I said, I want a better
planes
definition.
In the air? Were planes in the air?
We're about ready to go.
Yeah?
No, but they would have been pretty soon. And things would have happened to a point where you wouldn't turn back or couldn't turn back. So they came and they said, sir, we're ready to go. We'd like a decision. I said, I want to know something before you go. How many people will be killed? In this case, Iranians. Mm-hmm. I said, how many people are going to be killed? Sir, I'd like to get back to you on that. Great people, these generals. They said, came back, said, sir, approximately 150. And I thought about it for a second. I said, you know what? They shot down an unmanned drone, plane, whatever you want to call it. And here we are sitting with 150 dead people. That would have taken place probably within a half an hour after I said go ahead.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it. I didn't think it was proportionate.
If that is the truth, it's very interesting. By the way, I have, and I'll put them in the show notes, I have the flight tracks of the drone, and I have the Iran FIR, that's the flight information region, and you can see that the drone definitely passed over their airspace. Yeah.
I probably did, and I think maybe one of the reasons they didn't do this attack, and even though Trump has this nice story, I have to ask the media, just if anyone was listening, has the Iranian general had the drone in front of him and he was showing it to the media? If it was over international waters, where did all these pieces of drone come from? And does anyone ask the president or anyone else, well, if it was over clearly, as he said, clearly over international waters, where did all these pieces of drone come from? Because this thing crashes into the drink. It's not going to float to shore. It's not made out of balsa wood. It's a big, heavy craft. It's a size, pretty much almost the size of a 737, at least in wingspan. It's the big drone, the Predator. And it hits the water. Boom, it goes down to the bottom. It's metal. So where do all these pieces come from unless it was shot down over land and the pieces landed all over the place? Did anybody bother to ask that simple question?
No, why would we do that? That makes no sense. I don't think that the president's truthful, though. And I can't. Well,
I've got information.
I don't think so either.
Man.
I think the whole
new shit has come to light.
I think he's also being misled. I mean, the fact that they keep arguing that was over international waters when it clearly wasn't. By virtue of your tracking data and the fact that he had the drone pieces in front of him.
Well, let me play this clip again.
I've got information, man. New shit has come to light.
Can't back it up with any proof yet, but apparently, as the fighter jets or bomber aircraft were ready to take off for their targets involving Iran, U.S. intelligence intercepted a, quote, communication, we don't know exactly what that means, that had a full version of the finalized target list they were ordered to destroy. The version Iran received was not the finalized list, but it was one of the lists mulled over prior to the final decision. Some of the targets on the list were sent to Iran we're actually on the final target selection list. Upon receipt of the target list, U.S. satellite assets watched Iran detect hasty moving of anti-aircraft and surface-to-air missile assets towards the targets to defend them. It became clear to U.S. intelligence that American pilots could be flying to their deaths if the attack was allowed to proceed. Trump was advised of this development, and he allegedly ordered the mission aborted. Sounds a lot more feasible to me than 150 people he didn't want to kill.
Well, that tells you something. If that kind of information is leaking all over the place, they got to do something about this problem. They have a mole.
Yeah. And that's, if true, that's really, really problematic.
It's a good story if it's true or not.
What I like the most is Sean Hannity, who is a warmonger extraordinaire. I mean, what did Iran do to Sean Hannity? Did they rape him?
I don't know.
Listen to this.
He's part of that John McCain clique, you know, bomb,
yeah,
bomb.
The gay stash. Listen to his math.
We'll have A squared, B squared equals C squared. Radical Islamic mullahs,
the president,
married to weapons of mass destruction, nukes, equals a potential Holocaust.
That's it.
We can't let that happen. That's it. It's mathematical.
It's mathematical, John. It's just math.
It's mathematical?
What a dick. It's math, people. You got to shoot some rockets at Iran. It's math.
Well, here's the overriding, the Trump versus Iran, the backgrounder on PBS. It's a minute clip. It gives us what we need to know.
In Tehran today, the Revolutionary Guard Corps showed off their catch, the charred remains of the U.S. drone they shot down. But as he invited camera crews to document the destruction, General Amir Ali Hajizadeh said yesterday could have been deadlier.
At the same moment when this aircraft was being tracked, another spy aircraft called P-8 was flying close to this drone. That aircraft is manned and has around 35 crew members. We could have targeted that plane.
6,000 miles away, in an interview with NBC News, President Trump described discussing options with military commanders and also said yesterday could have been deadlier.
They came and they said, "Sir, we're ready to go. We'd like a decision." I said, "I want to know something before you go. How many people will be killed?" In this case, Iranians. Came back, said, "Sir, approximately 150.
You know, hold on. Just in light of what we just heard him say, or what we may be true about leaked information, it's interesting that he says, in this case, Iranians. I mean, would you expect anyone else to get killed?
Russians?
Possibly.
And also
Turks?
It could be anybody. I'm just saying that's interesting.
News. President Trump described discussing options with military commanders and also said yesterday could have been deadlier.
They came and they said, "Sir, we're ready to go. We'd like a decision." I said, "I want to know something before you go. How many people will be killed?" In this case, Iranians. Came back, said, "Sir, approximately 150. And I thought about it for a second. I said, you know what? They shot down an unmanned drone, plane, whatever you want to call it. And here we are sitting with 150 dead people. That would have taken place probably within a half an hour after I said go ahead. Yeah. And I didn't like it. I didn't think it was proportionate.
Iran says it used this interceptor missile to shoot down the drone. The U.S. military says it's located here along Iran's coast. Former senior military officials tell PBS NewsHour the president was likely given options to attack that missile site, its command and control, and its radar systems.
And those former senior military and diplomatic officials say the military strike options presented to the president would have included casualty estimates from the very beginning. It's not clear why the president received that information so close to giving an order to attack. But those former officials say it raises questions about the decision-making process.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Yeah.
What? You didn't kill people? What?
Yeah, let's give a little needle there. There was another analysis done. This is on PBS, this is again also on the news hour. Shields on Trump and Iran.
So, Mark, let's talk about what we are leading with tonight, and that is, again, the tense situation, standoff, whatever you want to call it, between the United States and Iran, with the latest news being President Trump had authorized a military strike, but then, or almost authorized, and then at the last minute pulled it back. What do we make of this?
Well, the president is keeping his word that he made during the campaign to be unpredictable, and I think unpredictable is what this qualifies. It's a little. It isn't. You don't get the sense that this has been well.
Wait a minute. He could have said the president kept his word. I don't want to get into new wars, but no, I'm going to be unpredictable. Was that a campaign promise?
A work of sarcasm.
You think that was sarcasm?
It's fantastic. I think it's sarcasm. Of course it is. And now he goes into his analysis, which is just a jaw dropper.
Pulled it back. What do we make of this?
Well, the president is keeping his word that he made during the campaign to be unpredictable, and I think unpredictable is what this qualifies. It's a little. It isn't. You don't get the sense that this has been well thought out, and the idea that and how the country gets on board, as we, for example, I mean, and this is that we are. It's unsettling. I'm relieved that the president, rather upset that he found out so late in the game. That's where we are.
Are you just trying to get this guy fired? How much time do you spend on this? And you could clean up the edits a little bit. It's almost there. It's an 8.5, solid 8. You really don't
Fabulous analysis.
You really don't like that guy, do you?
No, I think he's great.
Yeah. Well, it's fishy. This whole 150 people thing is fishy. I'm now that I hear about the potential of a mole and somebody, I mean, it's almost, in fact, if you're going to take it, you want to take it to one level more. The shoot down was part of a huge scheme to trap the United States into doing something where we're going to get ourselves into a mess. And we're going to look like the bad guys because they probably have all the data on the drone actually they shot the thing down for legitimate reasons. And then we go to attack them and then we get shot down in the process. The whole thing looks very sketchy. Well, I'm just going to give you a horrible scenario. So we know that there are just incredible warmongers in the United States government, in the White House, gay stash.
Yes.
Okay, so
Bolton, Pompeo.
So these guys, they have their people in. What if they said, "Look, this Trump guy, he's not going to do it. He doesn't want. What are we going to do? I got an idea. We'll fly the drone. We'll get it shot down. That's not hard to do. Just fly it over there, and then we'll leak some of the info about the fighters so that we can get some of our guys killed. Boom! You got a cocktail. It's possible, and it's very disturbing.
I like that one the most because that's exactly what these creeps would do.
Yeah.
And they're in a position to do it.
So thank you, President Trump. If that's what happened, lie all you want, but tell us the truth at some point about these a-holes when you smoke them out.
Well, both those guys have got to go.
Yeah.
And I mean, and also the Hannitys and all these people that are kind of sided with them. They really want
They got to go
to get themselves into one more of these stupid, expensive wars that cost us trillions of dollars that we can't afford. Ben Shapiro is in that list.
Yes. Yeah. Was he calling for attack on him?
He's a huge warmonger.
But was he actually on his podcast saying this? Attack, attack, attack?
I don't listen to his podcast.
Neither do I, but I'd like to know now.
Well, let's find out. I'm sure we have people out there that love the Ben Shapiro show.
And if you love the Ben Shapiro show, do you listen to him at 1.5 speed? And how much coke do you have to do to be able to keep up?
I don't know how he talks at 1.5 speed.
Exactly. But then the Washington Post reports that President Trump approved an offensive cyber strike that disabled Iranian computer systems used to control rocket and missile launches, even as he backed away from the conventional military attack in response to its downing Thursday of an unmanned U.S. surveillance drone, according to people familiar with the matter. Is this true?
We have I don't know. It sounds that you think you'd hear more about it from the community.
The White House declined to comment, as did officials at U.S. Cyber Command. Pentagon spokeshole Alyssa Smith said, as a matter of policy and for operational security, we do not discuss cyberspace operations, intelligence, or planning. Let me see. Did anyone else say anything? Who is this? Thomas Bossert.
And wouldn't the Iranians be bitching about this if something like that happened? And we'd be hearing about it from international news sources?
Listen to this. So we have former senior White House cybersecurity official in the Trump administration, Thomas Bossert. Look him up, John, while I read this. Bossert, Bossert. Why did he leave? He says, he was quoted in the Washington Post, this operation imposes costs on the growing Iranian cyber threat, but also serves to defend the United States Navy and shipping operations in the Strait of Hormuz. He's saying that as if he knows something. He continues, our U.S. military has long known that we could sink every IRGC, Iranian Royal, IRGC vessel in the Straits within 24 hours if necessary, and this is the modern version of what the U.S. Navy has to do to defend itself at sea and keep international shipping lanes free from Iranian disruption. So this is a former guy. So there's no official spoke on the record about this, but yet the headline, Trump approved cyber strikes against Iran's missiles. So that's more deep state shit.
Yeah, Bossert is some Atlantic Council guy who's been with the George W. Bush administration.
Yeah.
Attended George Washington University.
Yeah.
Young guy.
Did he get fired?
He's a Homeland Security Advisor to U.S. President Trump, where he was.
Yeah.
And he's currently ABC News Homeland Security Analyst.
Oh, say no more.
Immediately before, he's a fellow at the Atlantic Council, and then he's a Deputy Homeland Security Advisor to George W. Bush in that capacity. He co-authored the National Strategy for Homeland Security. Prior to that, he had positions in the federal FEMA. Office of Independent Counsel and the House of Representatives, also appointed as Director of Infrastructure Protection under Bush, overseeing the security of critical U.S. infrastructure.
He's a spook.
Spook. He's got spook written all over. He looks like one, too, except he's wearing a white shirt instead of a light blue.
Well, I'm going to I'm going to contact the channels and see if our idea may be right or not about this deep state. Really sickening to think, but it fits perfectly. It just seems so odd. I mean,
this guy quit when Bolton got in. Now, as soon as Bolton got in, he left. Now, he said he resigned a day after Bolton got in. Now, I'm wondering whether this was a guy who was a placeholder for the deep state. He was in there, and then Bolton comes in. Okay, you got it, and he hands a baton handoff.
Yeah, possible. I just, the whole 150 dead people thing is what really just doesn't fit the Trump.
Not buying it.
It doesn't fit the Trump mold.
No.
It just doesn't fit it. Unless it was 150 of our guys, he says. In this case, Iranians, sure. So 150 Iranians, maybe more U.S., I don't know. But it just doesn't feel right. And then you take all this.
It will start to reveal itself.
I hope so.
On our show.
Yes.
Meanwhile,
yes.
Got some updates on some action around the world.
Okay.
China is back at it. In Hong Kong, they're still irked because this situation hasn't resolved itself, so we can get an update there.
There were fresh protests today demanding that city leaders scrap a proposal allowing extraditions to mainland China. More than 1,000 demonstrators wearing black rallied outside the police headquarters and government buildings. Others marched in the streets and put up barricades, but there was no violence.
I really like the power of numbers in this one. It really shows you what people can do if they can actually band together.
Yeah.
Did you see the Hong Kong, some of that aerial footage where an ambulance needed to get through and the people just parted beautifully?
Yeah, wasn't that great?
Oh, like that's some crowd discipline right there. I don't know if that's possible in the West.
Not here. No.
I don't think so. But it showed you get 1 million people, and all of us, and oh man, they don't want any of that in like Beijing. Can you imagine Beijing? Get a couple million people. Hey, we're kind of sick and tired of you, Xi.
It'd be 5 million.
Yeah.
They'd have 5 million people.
And I
shutting down the place.
Now, that's something I'm sure someone's working on. They did pretty good with this Hong Kong operation. They had nice signs, all professionally printed. People were all prepared and rallied for this.
Yeah.
If they could get that done in Beijing, that would teach Xi Jinping a little lesson, I think.
Something would happen.
Maybe it was a dry run for that.
It might be a dry run. You never know. It's possible. It's a hell of a dry run.
Yeah. Well, people were in on it. They were agreed. They're like, yeah, we don't want this happening.
So there was they laid off 72 cops in Philadelphia who were busting. This happened, by the way. This is a big trend right now. They're busting putting cops on leave if they post on Facebook. This is an old story. Cops busted for Facebook posts.
Oh, yes, I saw this just before we went on our honeymoon. Oh, do you want me to play the clip?
Yeah, play this.
Sorry.
Hundreds of police officers around the country are taking heat tonight for public posts that they made on Facebook. Here's the problem. A lot of people think the posts were violent, racist, and sexist. Police in Philadelphia are among those under investigation. And Don Dahler's there.
The people at this rally outside the Philadelphia police headquarters weren't surprised by what they read in the racist social media rants.
We live here in this city.
But Solomon Jones, one of the protest organizers, says the brazen public display took it to a different level.
It's a turning point because they felt the license to engage in hate in a public way. And what that says to me is that there is a culture that allows that to happen.
The Facebook posts in question contained discriminatory opinions. If our country was all Caucasian, the homicide rate would drop 70%. Perhaps we should be very suspicious of all Muslims in this country, said another. Or encourage violence. It's a good day for a chokehold. They were collected by the Plainview Project, a group of lawyers and activists who over 2 years painstakingly reviewed the Facebook pages of 3,500 current and former police officers in 8 departments. Dallas and Denison, Texas, Lake County, Florida, St. Louis, Twin Falls, Idaho, Phoenix, York, Pennsylvania, and Philadelphia, where over 300 officers were flagged for allegedly expressing racist, violent, or misogynistic views.
I want the 328 officers who are on active duty to be taken off the street right now, because it says to me that your mindset is one that you don't feel that my life is valuable.
All 8 police departments have issued statements saying they found those posts objectionable. 4 of them have put some of their officers on temporary desk duty pending investigations. Now, different departments have different policies about this kind of behavior, but David, only St. Louis has referred the matter to a prosecutor.
You know what's too bad about this this story is that there's no way, since it's all been deleted and closed down, there's no way to really read any of these comments in context.
Wrong.
It's still up?
The original comments are not still up, but Plainview, the website that tracks, it literally finds cops and tracks them, and then reposts their comments with the follow-ups and all the rest of it. That's still there. It's called the database.
Have you taken a look at it?
Yeah, of course I did.
Oh, let's talk about it. Tell me.
It's lame.
What?
It's a bunch of cops. This is classic guys getting the cops. They're saying something like, they repost a bust of some drug operation, and then one cop jumps in and says, "Good day for a chokehold," and just juvenile comments. Reposting of meme after every meme that comes out. We can't have Sharia law in this country, and then to have some meme of some, any number.
Oh, so it was a lot of sarcasm.
It's a lot of sarcasm. I'd say probably mostly sarcasm, mean-spirited comments that are just part of the job, it seems to me. But it's nothing worse than what the public is posting. I think this is a witch hunt. I think it's bullshit.
Well, who is this is another big part of Democratic strategy is to position all police as the enemy of the blacks.
Yes. This is part and parcel of that. I don't have the background on this Plainview operation, but there's a lot of Democrats And they are, I think a lot of these cops are being railroaded. And worse, of course, this, again, what you have to have some circumspection, but apparently these cops don't have it. Worse is they track certain specific cops. So in the database, you can actually look up a cop and get all of his posts from everywhere, which I think is a violation of privacy or something. And it's posts from, closed forums and Facebook and things I don't have access to because I don't care. And a lot of it is extreme. There's a few bad apples in there, very few. The rest of them are being railroaded, as far as I'm concerned, for just being a normal person on Twitter, reposting lame memes and there is a lot of anti-Muslim sentiment amongst these cops, but it all has to do with Sharia law. It's bullshit. This story is not well presented, and this is the way it's going, and the mainstream media is all in on it. But you can go look at all these things; they're all there, and you after a while you go, "What's the big deal?" Yeah. I see worse stuff if you go to Rob Reiner's feed, you see worse stuff.
More hate. Yeah. Well. Yeah, there in this day and age, you have to be cognizant if you are in a position of power, and carrying a gun is a huge position of power, one of the ultimate ones, and people are very sensitive, and everyone gets taken down. There's deplatforming everywhere. Cancel culture is rampant, so you got to be careful, even with your humor and your sarcasm. And I'm sure that there were some real dickheads in there, no doubt about it, and those have to be weeded out. But I can see, knowing a lot of cops, that there's what we call it gallows humor.
Yes, that's exactly what we see a lot of in these posts. And gallows humor.
And I think we'll see some of that in Austin. In fact, I've already received some emails with this type of gallows humor from APD. And unfortunately, I really am. That's the only bummer about our honeymoon is they had the big Austin City Council meeting on Thursday where they removed the city ordinances forbidding camping and panhandling in the city of Austin. And I have a report, and I guarantee you we're going to have a lot of gallows humor from cops, and poop is on its way.
Several other major cities that allow camping within city limits. In Seattle, camping is also legal except in parks. And San Francisco, an appeals court ruled last year that cities could not criminalize people for sleeping or camping in public areas if shelter isn't available. And in Portland, camping is only banned on public property and public rights of way.
Now we'll have to establish that the underlying...
This is a cop. This is a top cop in Austin who's talking.
And on public property and public rights of way.
Now we'll have to establish that the underlying conduct posed a hazard or a danger to someone before we can take any action.
As KXAN's Eugen Cho found out, that last part about camping still has many people worried.
Police Chief Brian Manley told the City Council under these new changes, if you set up a tent, say here on Congress Avenue, police cannot make you move as long as you're not blocking the public right of way, an entrance to a business, or as long as you're not posing safety risks to yourself or others.
This is about the next student who will be groped, followed, assaulted, or possibly murdered in
These are students from UT.
The West Campus area.
We were chased. It's not pleasant to be so frightened.
Some people worry about safety and what will happen to downtown streets since people can now set up tents without getting cited. But the mayor says the city manager has been directed to come up with guidelines later this summer for safe places to camp and other solutions for homelessness. He doesn't think a tent city will be an issue in the meantime.
I just don't think we're going to see that kind of thing happen over an 8-week period of time. If it does, then there's going to be a lot that we're going to be able to learn and apply.
Yeah, big middle finger to you, Mayor Stephen Adler. Can you believe the gall of that guy? Oh, I don't think we'll see it. Oh, we won't see any tent cities.
We get to learn.
We'll get to learn if something happens. Wow. That is just unbelievably ignorant of what is happening in every Democrat-run city in America. It boggles my mind.
But this is then again, You go up to Seattle and the public seem to put up with it. They don't vote these people out. They don't. Oh no, I'd rather have him than a Republican.
I mean, and
don't be mean to the homeless. I mean, I don't know. You gotta.
But
we can find ways around this. We can make things work.
As the note that I read a few shows ago, it's not just for camping. It's for all class, I think B and C, or maybe C and D misdemeanor. I'm not sure exactly which ones. I'd have to look at the note. So same go for shoplifting. All of this stuff.
No, don't bother prosecuting any of these things.
So what was interesting as
so petty crime, low-level petty crime, including breaking the windows of your car to grab something in the front seat, or stealing from a store. Well, you're hungry. Stealing from a store, shoplifting, knocking someone over, just gut punching someone walking down the street, minor assault. All these things are legal in cities like San Francisco. Seattle is going there. Portland's up there, I think, already, according to some people when I complain. Yeah, it's going to happen. Philadelphia is going on. They're attacking the cops there. It's just a joke, and I don't understand why people are putting up with it to the extent that they are. It's a lot of these millennials who are non-confrontational. They're largely responsible for this problem. They bitch to each other, and they bitch around the dinner table, but they will not confront anyone. This is but here's a phenomenon I picked up on. I'm ordering some pizza, so I'm going to call in a pizza. So why don't you just order it online? I said, why would I do that? I don't know what's going on with their back end. I'm going to call them and order the pizza. Oh, okay. How do you they're like baffled by this because they never call to order a pizza. They always do it online. They won't talk to people. It's too much.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, just going back for a second, and this fits into the millennial vibe. So the city of Austin has the city council website, and I wanted to review the PDFs of the documents while we were on the plane flying back, and I could not access any of these PDFs. I kept getting corrupt. And so I tweet Mayor Adler, and I say, "Hey, your site is broken. Not a single one of these PDFs is downloadable. Please fix." Well, No Agenda Nation jumps in, and they're like, "Holy crap, this is a Cold Fusion website. That shit was outdated in 2011. What's going on, Austin?" And they just pile on. So by the time we land, it was fixed. I like that part. So we're on the radar somewhere. Someone figured it out. Or Adler went, fix that. And if there's anything really good, I'll have an analysis for the next show. But here's one of the main terms, the main reasons why these ordinances have been removed. It is because of the, quote, quality of life challenges of the unhoused. Is that some new speak or what?
The unhoused?
Yes, the quality of life challenges of the unhoused.
Huh.
So
that's a good one.
The way they view it is homeless. And by the way, people who panhandle aren't all homeless, but okay. We'll just presume you're kind of being a bigot if you see someone panhandling. Oh, you must be homeless. That guy's walking around crazy. Must be homeless. Maybe he's just crazy. Maybe he's on drugs. Maybe there's something else. Maybe he's grief-ridden. I don't know. No, he's unhoused. And therefore has quality of life challenges that we just can't comprehend. So we need to have compassion. And that's exactly it, the compassion. The compassion is what screws it all up. And that's the millennial vibe. Oh, gotta have compassion.
Yeah,
sickening.
I agree.
It's sickening.
Well, it's not going to get any better because these millennials still won't call in a pizza.
Yeah, well, I'm a homeowner now. I'm a taxpayer in Austin. There's a new sheriff in town. I got Mimi Dvorak souffling me in my ear, letting me know what I'm supposed to do. And I got some points to make at the next city council meeting. Tina's going to be so embarrassed.
Well, it just takes you're getting used to. Let's go to update another thing we got going on here, which this is not being covered much. We got a little action between Georgia and Russia again.
Oh, my goodness.
Violent anti-Russian clashes, though, did break out overnight in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia, and at least 240 people were hurt. Some were left bleeding after police fired rubber bullets and tear gas at demonstrators who were trying to storm the parliament building in Tbilisi, the capital. Anti-Russian feeling runs deep in Georgia after Moscow helped two Georgian provinces break away in 2008.
What's this all about now?
I have no idea, but something's up, and it's not being played up by anybody. I mean, PBS had it, but that was about it. Something's up. I think this is us again.
Well, there must be some pipeline action that we're not agreeing to, because that's what it always is. That region is all about the pipelines.
It's all about the pipelines.
Shoot, if I had known this, I would have looked into it. But I'm making a note now. Let me write this down. Georgia pipelines. Who's running the show there now? Not that guy eats his tie.
I have no idea.
They kicked him out.
It's been off the radar for so long, and then this crops up. Okay, here's another. Let's go with this one. Climate change protests in Germany. This is the millennials. Back to the millennials.
Protesters from across Europe gathered in Western Germany today to call for action on climate change. Organizers estimate 20,000 people filled the streets. The protest came a day after the European Union failed to agree on a plan to make the EU carbon neutral by 2050.
It's simply a shame and terrible what happens. Germany, among other industrial nations, is one of the countries mainly responsible for climate change, and we do not feel the effects yet in comparison to countries in the global South. And it is simply essential to take to the streets against it and to protest.
Today's rally took place near one of Germany's largest coal mines.
So this millennial comes out and says that we're not feeling the effects because there's nothing going on, but that's okay. But they are in the global South. What's she talking about? Africa, Australia, what?
The global
South America?
South?
Is South America is feeling this the global warming prize? Is the tides going up there and they're not going up here?
Well, you know, there was that lone polar bear walking around somewhere. Did you see that? Was like everyone's like, "Oh, it's a hungry polar bear!" It's like they just go. It's just a rotation. It's just rotation. Ireland is set to ban private cars within 15 years. And just no more cars.
That's gonna work.
But here's the one that
Ireland.
There was an interesting counter. Well, it's now a discussion. You probably know something about this because you've tested electronic vehicles quite extensively. You've driven quite a number of them. So the Brussels Times reports, whatever the Brussels Times is, sounds like a website, that a new German study exposed how electric vehicles will hardly decrease CO2 emissions in Europe over the coming years, as the introduction of electric vehicles will not lead to a reduction in CO2 emissions for highway traffic. And what they do, and this is why I'm asking you how correct this is they take a whole bunch of other things into account that make, in this example, a Tesla run. So I'll just read this one paragraph. A battery pack for a Tesla Model 3 pollutes the climate with 11 to 15 tons of CO2. Each battery pack has a lifespan of approximately 10 years and total mileage of 94,000 miles. That would mean 73 to 98 grams of CO2 per kilometer, 116 to 156 grams of CO2 per mile. Add this to the CO2 emissions of the electricity from power plants that power such vehicles, and the actual Tesla emissions could be between 156 and 180 grams of CO2 per kilometer, which apparently is worse than a modern diesel engine. Now, I don't know if this is a fair comparison.
I think it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I think people have known for a long time that these battery cars have, because of the nature of power generation, and then you generate power at a power plant, and then you send the power over transmission lines where it loses like a lot of energy just in the transmission. And by the time it gets to the car, the amount of CO2 produced by the power plant is, compared to how many kilowatts you get into the batteries, is generally pretty high. Now, if nuclear power was at the back end of all of this,
different story.
Totally different story. And also the manufacturing of the batteries, that in that case is going to chew up a lot of energy in the processing of lithium. But that's just taking that out of the equation. If you went to all nuke, the story would be totally different. But they're not going to go that way with their arguments because
Chernobyl.
It's the real mystery of this whole thing.
No, it's not a mystery. These people don't want it solved because then they're out of business. The solution is clear.
That element. There's also the element that maybe they're just trying to take down Western civilization.
Well, here's the good news. I'm going to be gone in 35 years. No, I'm going to do 40. Screw y'all. I'm going to be old and cranky. So I can just watch this demise from my rocking chair. You guys have to live a lot longer with this bull crap. Good luck with it. Not being cynical.
Nothing's happening anyway. It's just a nonsense exercise, and the millennials are again the world's biggest suckers.
Hey, can I just say, hey trolls, I'm gonna go be older than 75. Okay, please give me a break. They're so mean. I'm so healthy. Right. Yes.
Okay, we had climate change. Now let's go. You want to go to Bernie? Bernie's still, I think, in play.
Well, I'll tell you what. You want to take a break and then do a 2020 update? Yeah, let's do that.
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh yeah, that'd be fab. Yeah, on No Agenda in the morning.
Well, we're starting off with thanking a few people here for 1149 with Donald Borowski, the Viscount of Eastern Washington, and fire bottles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He didn't send a note in on any official paper.
No.
And just no jingles, no karma for him.
We appreciate it. Thank you, Sir Donald.
Claire Thornhill, $110.18.
What's this number?
Richard.
Oh, that's a shape-shifting Jew donation, I guess, with an 18.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Must be. We got to finalize those things and make them official.
Yeah, well, you're in charge of that.
Yeah. Apparently, when I say we, I mean me.
Well, we spent a lot of time editing Shield, so I can understand why we didn't have time to do the shape-shifting donation.
Anyway, thanks, Claire. Richard Spasto, $101.01.
101. Digital, the binary.
Binary is the best podcast in the universe. Richard, Sergeant Postal, Miami Lakes, Florida. Continue the great show. $100.33. Ian Field, 100 from Great Britain. And then, coincidentally, Ian Trimble from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Random numbers.
He's calling out Andre for being a boner and not a donor.
Douchebag.
And this is, by the way, the third time he's called him out. So apparently it's not effective with old
It's not working really well.
Andre probably doesn't even listen to the show. That's what I guess. Tom Shenwan.
How about Shannoni? I was thinking Shannoni, maybe?
Could be.
Shannone?
Yeah, he's looking forward to the Chicago meetup 9669. Daniel Breck in Lakeland, Tennessee. 8888. Sir Kevin McLaughlin, the Viscount of Luna, Locust, North Carolina, 8006.
Lopsided boob.
Lopsided boob, yeah. Sir Brian Kaufman in Scottsdale, Arizona, 7575. That came in as a check. Mark Mensick, 7333. And he's got a shout out for his daughter-in-law, Brittany, birthday.
Her birthday, yeah.
On the list. Greg House, 75. First-time donor. Give him a de-douching.
You've been de-douched.
Sir Stephen or Stephen Hutto in Wilmington, Delaware. 7070 6969. If you read this, I'm requesting a housing karma. We'll put that at the end. If donated in the past and it's been compared to the value I've received, I like a de-douching.
Okay, we can do that.
You've been de-douched.
And he wants to call out Eric and Caleb for being
douchebags.
Douchebag.
I'll do a double one.
Douchebag.
Sir John Helmer in Shawnee, Kansas, 6950. He wants to do a 6950 donation for the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing in 69.
You didn't have to send it.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no moon landings.
Like the No Agenda invisible hat.
Yes, exactly.
Baron Mark Tanner in Whittier, California, 6789. Sir Kelly and Dame Andrea, 5510.
Thank you.
Sir Loudpipes, 5510.
This donation brings me to baronet status, although I can't think of a catchy new title. May I please attend the title change ceremony anyway? Yes, of course. Thank you. Thanks for all you guys do in producing the best podcast in the universe. Onward, Sir Loudpipes. Of course, you will be a baronet momentarily.
Ben Herb Street, St. Joseph, Minnesota, 55. He needs a de-douching.
You've been de-douched.
He says, the show's worth every penny. You two have literally changed my whole outlook on life and are the only news source which is beneficial for spy agencies to know so they can donate and have their moment of disinformation. Yeah, that's what we've been saying.
Yes, exactly.
They don't pony up enough. Richard L. Hufford in Tempe, Arizona, 5333. He's trading his cable bill for us.
Good choice. Good choice.
Get a more expensive cable bill. Tom Miller, 5050. And the following people are $50 donors, name and location where applicable. Patrick Maycom in New York City. Sir Patrick Maycom, sorry. David Timmons in Oklahoma City. Alexa Delgado in Aptos, California. David McLean, parts unknown. Maxine Waters Gravel's back.
Love that.
Dame J of the Angry Clouds.
Hey, wait a minute. Did you get a Keep America Great cap?
I did not get a Keep America Great cap.
Well, Maxine Waters Gravel says, JCD, enjoy your new Keep America Great cap. If ACC had a mailbox, I'd send him one too. I don't have a mailbox, but I do have a P.O. box, which I'd like to remind everyone is, if I could remember it myself, P.O. Box 18209, 18209, Austin, Texas, 78760. I'll take a hat.
There you go. He'll take a hat. Well, the hat's probably on its way. Sir Vasquez, $50.
Well, hold on. No. It says, did you Dame J of the Angry Clouds? Maybe I missed that one.
Yeah, I said Dame J of the Angry Clouds.
I missed it. Sorry.
Sir Vasquez, Grant Cloakide or Cloakid, my favorite podcast, he says. Marcus McCall.
Marcus Mueller from Deutschland. Marcus Mueller, Deutschland.
Oh, Mueller. Marcus Mueller. Yeah, yes. Coming in with a bunch of Unicode.
Yes. Marcus Unicode.
I got Marcus Unicode. Sir Brian, Baron of Costa Mesa. Andrew, but instead Adam Conklin, parts unknown. Daniel LeBoy in Bath, Michigan. Donald Ripple in Dresden, Ohio. And last but not least, our Baron over here in Oakland, California, who never shows up at the meetups. Baron Alan Bean of Oakland, California. I want to thank all these folks for contributing and supporting and producing show 1149. Your help was greatly appreciated.
Yes. And I also want to thank producer Jeff in Portugal, who apparently knew the general manager at the hotel we were staying at the resort. And it paid off in spades. We were well taken care of. Lots of free stuff. Triple-tiered meat and cheese plates in the room every night with champagne. Thank you. It felt so elite. It was fantastic. Very much appreciated.
Was it actually champagne or a sparkling wine?
Sparkling wine. And thank you, everybody who came in under $50. That's the place where you can donate if you want to remain anonymous, because we will never read those names, but it's also people who are on many of the subscriptions. You can find more information about the subscriptions at Dvorak.org/NA. And again, thank you very much. It is what keeps the show going. It is our value for value proposition. Look it up. People talk about it. Just Google News with No Agenda. And now, as promised,
jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
It is the 23rd of June, 2019. Where does the time go? We've got birthdays for today. First, belated. Lisa Stelter says happy birthday to her husband, Paul. He celebrated on the 20th. I think we might have messed that one up. So apologies and happy birthday belatedly, Paul. Lindsay Heitman says happy birthday to Bill in Arlington and says thanks for hitting me in the mouth and being the best friend a girl could ask for. John Balsano says happy birthday to his smoking hot wife, Tracy. She celebrates today, as does Mark Mensick's daughter-in-law, Brittany. Happy birthday from everybody here at the best podcast in the universe.
No agenda meetups.
It's like a party. That's right. Here's your meetup list. You can find them all at noagendameetups.com. The 27th of June, Southeast London convenes. We have Southeast and Southwest people. Pay attention. The 28th, Salem, Oregon. 29th, South Florida meetup. July 4th, Seattle. July 6th, Utrecht in the Netherlands. July 9th, Knoxville, Tennessee. The 11th in Charleston. We've got Atlanta, Georgia on July 13th. Southwest London on July 20th. July 26th, St. Louis. July 27th, Buffalo, New York. July 27th, Frisco, Texas. And wasn't there a Chicago meetup coming soon?
I think it's this weekend maybe or next.
Oh, that's too soon. Shoot. Really? Tina and I want to go to the Chicago meetup, but it's too soon. Well, maybe the next one. And John?
I don't know. It's just you got to go to the website to find out.
NoAgendaMeetups.com. I'll check it later on. And this is kind of our pledge, and I think you're going to do it too, John. We're going to try and do some more meetups. Attend them ourselves. Because it's fun. We enjoy it very, very much. Let's see. Oh, yes, of course, we have this.
Title changes, turn and face the slave. Title changes, don't want to be a douchebag.
This goes out to Sir Loud Pipes. You heard from him earlier with his donation on the best podcast in the universe. He has upgraded his status to Baronet. And, of course, still Knight of the No Agenda Roundtable. Brand new title, Baronet. Thank you very much for your courage. And again, everybody should consider supporting this show. Go to Dvorak.org/NA.
We got no nightings.
No nightings. No, it's the summer. They're all on that 10th car on the Zephyr.
Apparently.
Yeah. I'm going to do some 2020 stuff. Bernie. Crazy Bernie.
Yeah, I got some Bernie clips I want to play.
Mm-hmm.
One's belated. But there's a couple of things that come out that strike me. Let's try. Well, first of all, let's talk about Bernie. Bernie's got a good pitch when he goes on Fox. He's got guts.
Yeah.
He goes on Fox and he does this kind of socialist pitch. It's kind of misleading. But it's very attractive. I think he's really, if they gave him, Bernie would be a guy who could easily beat Trump if they played him properly. But they won't do it because they don't want Bernie in there, so he's not going to make it. But let's go Bernie on minimum wage and Walmart for starters.
Federal minimum wage. And Congress, which you're a part of, is not doing anything to raise that. So why should Walmart raise its wages on its own when it's already paying more than is required by law?
Whoa. When you say Congress is not doing anything,
I'm not saying you're not supporting it. But go ahead.
Well, actually, it is my legislation that is,
understand.
The dominant legislation in the Senate. So let's be clear. It's not Congress. It is Republican leadership. So I have asked Mitch McConnell, who apparently supports the $7.25 federal minimum wage. Now, let me be clear. I think a $7.25 minimum wage right now is a starvation wage. It is a disgrace. Minimum wage has not been raised in 12 years. So I am pushing very hard to make sure that we have a $15 minimum wage so that if you work 40 hours in this country, you can live with a shred of dignity. That's not a lot of money. Now, I went to Walmart in Bentonville, Arkansas, to make this point, that the family that owns Walmart is the Walton family. As you may know, Dana, the Walton family is the wealthiest family in America. They are worth $175 billion. $175 billion. They should be able to pay their workers a living wage, at least $11 an hour. And now you have the absurd situation that because they have a starting minimum wage in Walmart of $11 an hour, you got many thousands of Walmart employees who are forced to go on Medicaid, food stamps, and public housing. And guess who pays for that? It is the taxpayers of America. And I don't think the ordinary taxpayer should have to subsidize the wealthiest family in this country.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not such a fabulous, simplistic argument, and it really nails it.
He's got to tighten it up, though.
Well, he's not going to tighten anything up.
Interesting that I asked producer Mo, are there any black celebrities who actually get it and are talking about ADOS? He says, yes, one, Killer Mike, but he's all in on Bernie, which is interesting.
Yeah, Killer Mike. Well, Killer Mike was one of the last guys that used to Tavis Smiley before he was railroaded out of his job.
Yeah, I haven't heard from him recently.
No, it's because they took him and they took him out because he was a little too liberal. I mean, in an old-fashioned sense, and he was like for guns. He thought that the black community should know that they should be armed to the teeth. And him and Killer Mike talked about gun control. We had a clip of it, and how blacks needed to be armed. It was like why would you want to take the arms away from the black community? That's the only way they can protect themselves. Boom, out. Get him out of here.
Let me see. So, we have a couple there. Your voter phone bank, lineage, descent, 55-year. Maybe this was it. This is one of your clips, I think.
That black people have learned, to the extent that we love this country, whatever that means, that we have learned to love this country in spite of and not because of.
I love America. Mm-hmm. This is it's an important.
This is a long clip. Was this yours?
Yeah.
Oh, let's.
Thing for me to say, because unlike a lot of other people in this country, black or white, I've traveled the world. Right. I ain't just traveled a couple of states. I went to states when my grandparents took me on vacation, but I've traveled the world. And there is no other country with the type of opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know where the guns part is.
I don't know where that's going, but that's okay.
Yeah.
The two of them are big, And then also Smiley went off with Cornell, that guy is...
Cornell West.
Cornell West. He went out on the road with him to condemn Obama.
Oh, yeah. Whoops. And
So him being all for the Second Amendment and condemning Obama with Cornell, who also disappeared. They disappeared him. They just sidelined him. They basically did the same thing they did with Ray McGovern and everybody else that the media doesn't agree with. They just push them all
Get rid of them.
Over the edge, and you can go find work on your own, you bastard. And that was the end of Tavis Smiley. So... they don't know that you can actually get your message out by starting a podcast.
So if you were to just restate what Bernie said, what's his message? What is his pitch?
His pitch is that why is the taxpayer essentially subsidizing the workers at Walmart by giving them food stamps and all these other things because Walmart won't pay him a living wage, and they use the taxpayer as backup. There's no reason for it. You just make Walmart pay him more. And you can do that through legislation. That's Bernie's message.
Right. Well, it's been out there for a while.
Yeah, well, he's the only one that seems to be continually pushing. Here's his other one, and this one kind of brings a question up in my mind. This is Bernie and the mythical working people.
At all. Sir, let me drill down on that, because here's what Maria Zvart, the executive director of the Democratic Socialists for America, told the New York Times last year. Our ultimate goal really is for working people to run our society and run our workplaces and our economies. And back in the 70s, you seemed to agree. Here's a quote from you. I favor the public ownership of utilities, banks, and major industries. Senator, do you still believe that in the public ownership of major industries?
Chris,
and if not, why?
I live in the city that you're where I am right now. We do have public ownership of our electric department, and they do a pretty good job. A lot of electric departments all over this country are publicly owned. Do I believe that workers should have more say and be sitting on the boards of large corporations? Yes, I do. Do I believe that we should break up some of the major banks on Wall Street and support credit unions and community banks? Yes, I do. So I think really one of the things that we have to look at is the fact that power in this country rests with just a handful of people. You got 6 financial institutions that have assets equivalent to 54% of the GDP. 6 institutions control the flow of trillions of dollars. When we talk about democracy, it means not just voting every 2 years. It's giving working people more of a say in what goes on in the economy.
So here's what I ask. A couple of things. First of all, why doesn't he promote a wealth tax, which I have an essay on that I'll be putting on Cosmic
Weenie. Oh, good. Always like a Cosmic Weenie essay.
Which will explain what my position. But who are these mythical working people? Who are these working people? Are they talking about the gardeners? Are they talking about the guys at the toll booth? Are they talking about somebody on an assembly line at the Tesla factory? I mean, what is this working people, and why should they be given so much power? They're wage slaves, is what he's talking about, and they can be anybody. I mean, we're working people from a basic definition. Right now, we're working,
and we're people.
Is it just anybody that does anything? You garden in your own backyard. You pound a nail in your house. Does that mean you're a worker or working? This is bullcrap. This the working people. Everybody's a working person at some level.
So what is it code for then? It's code for something.
It's code for the poor. I don't know what it's code for, to be honest about it. I'll tell you what it is. It's code for you being a communist socialist. It's words that don't mean anything, but it's a signal. It's like not virtue signal. It's like, hey, I'm going to use these terms because now you can identify me. We're fellow travelers. We're a couple of Reds.
Is there? Yeah, I like it. A couple of Reds. Is there some secret handshake or a decoder ring?
No, they recognize each other pretty easily.
Couple of Reds. I have a 2020 clip.
Okay.
I was waiting for it to happen. Who is ABC? Is ABC? Have they picked someone that they like yet? Have they decided someone?
I think all the networks right now are all in for Biden, and they're doing what they can to test to throw stuff at him to see if it bounces off or not. They're worried.
Well,
they're worried, but they're in for Biden. Biden's the guy.
Tom Yamas threw the kitchen sink at Biden. I mean, literally everything that we've been talking about that's troublesome when it comes to Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe. Shouldn't that the name be Sleepy Joe?
Sleepy Joe is a sleepy guy.
I like Sleepy Joe. Sleepy Joe, here's his problem. We have two problems. One is China. We know China. Really, the problem is his kid. That's the problem. He got a problematic kid.
In 2014, Ukrainians, sick of corruption, revolted. Vice President Joe Biden went to Kiev to help the new government.
You have to fight the cancer of corruption.
But then something strange happened. Just 3 weeks later, a Ukrainian natural gas company, Burisma, accused of corruption, appoints Hunter Biden, seen here in their promotional videos, to their board of directors, paying his firm more than $1 million a year. Hunter, a lawyer who had just been discharged from the Navy Reserves for testing positive for cocaine.
Mr. Hunter Biden.
He had served on other boards, but had no known experience in Ukraine or natural gas. We went to Kiev and found even among Joe Biden supporters in Ukraine, Hunter's hiring was troubling.
I think that Hunter Biden did a very bad thing, and he was very wrong. He allowed his name to be abused.
And Ukraine wasn't the only country where Hunter Biden's business and his father's diplomacy as vice president intersected. It also happened in China. This video shows Chinese diplomats greeting Vice President Biden as he arrived in Beijing in December of 2013. Right by his side, his son Hunter. Less than 2 weeks later, Hunter's firm had new business, creating an investment fund in China involving the government-controlled Bank of China. With reports, they hope to raise $1.5 billion. Hunter still plays a role in the fund. His lawyer says his stake is worth about $500,000. Both Hunter and his lawyers say he never discussed any of his overseas work with his father. Biden's campaign team told us that the vice president acted at all times in a manner consistent with well-established executive branch ethics standards. Now, in response to our questions, the Biden campaign, for the first time, is announcing if he's elected, he will invoke a new ethics policy on his first day in office that would empower White House lawyers to monitor for any types of conflicts of interest.
I'd say that was a pretty big trial balloon if they're just testing stuff out.
That was a good one.
I mean, that was...
Yeah, they're nailing it. It's not going to have any effect. Biden's the guy.
Well, you said Biden, Kamala Harris. I got to tell you.
Yes, and this is
huge mistake.
I know where you're going.
Yeah.
And I will say this, she's attacking Biden left and right, again, part of the process. And she will be picked because this is not uncommon. This happened with George H.W. Bush when he was running against Reagan. They were voodoo economics, and the guy's a maniac, and he's only a Hollywood guy, and blah, blah, blah. Boom, vice president. This happened with Lyndon Johnson and Jack Kennedy. This happens with a lot of these guys. They hate, they run against each other to get the presidency, and then they relent and they become the vice president. But they show a lot of gumption.
Well, I'm going back, and I'm going to say again that his choice will be Stacey Abrams. That's the choice. That is the only logical choice for the Democrat Party. It is definitely not Kamala Harris.
I'm sticking with Kamala Harris. I think Stacey Abrams is too problematic. And by the way, if he picks Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams will say that she got picked.
Yeah, she declined. She has better things to do at the Council on Foreign Relations.
Yeah, and whatever else she's involved in, which is sketchy.
I'm just saying, if I was advising the Democrat Party, I would say Kamala Harris, bad idea.
Why?
Well, because the black vote will shun her.
It's possible, but Kamala Harris is very good politically, and she's wormed her way up to the ranks and is a U.S. senator from nothing. She had nothing going on.
That's before the dud of the Mueller report.
And there we go. We'll see. I don't think Stacey Abrams is even in play, but you're totally convinced that she is.
Yes, I do. Well, you still have thoughts on Hillary Clinton.
I do.
Are they dirty thoughts or just thoughts? Sorry. Let's see. Anyone else we need to? I don't think is anyone else?
I mean, I don't have any more clips from anyone. I don't think.
Buttigieg. I tried to get a clip of Buttigieg. He went to some black voters in some small town in was it maybe no, it was South Bend, actually, South Bend, Indiana. I think a cop had been it was Black Lives Matter people.
Yeah, they shot some poor guy.
Yeah,
the cops did.
And he's standing there, and he's like, well, whatever. He was just very quiet, and then at a certain point he says, well, I'm not asking for your vote. And the people went, you ain't getting it either. It was inaudible. I really wanted to clip it. We just could not hear what was going on. But he's failing. He's failing.
Well, he's a mayor, a small town mayor. From
a hamlet. A hamlet.
So let's go here's an interesting. I got pulled this down from Democracy Now! See if you can find. I'm not going to do this to embarrass you, because I don't think a lot of people would pick this up. But if you're a news presenter telling this story, I think you might want you use either a fact checker or you got editors or somebody would pick it up. But nobody picked it up. So let's play. There's a big oil refinery going up in smoke down in
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Yeah, oil refinery report from Democracy Now!
In Philadelphia battled a massive fire overnight after a large explosion at a 150-year-old refinery in South Philadelphia. This marked the second time this month emergency responders were called to the Philadelphia Energy Solutions refining complex, which produces 335,000 barrels of crude oil every day. It's said to be the largest such complex on the U.S. Eastern Seaboard. No injuries were reported, but nearby neighborhoods were ordered to shelter in place.
Well, okay, you're right. You're not trying to embarrass me. The only thing I could, if I'm just hearing that, the only thing I would go and look up is the 150-year-old claim.
Well, that is worth looking up because I find that hard to believe. Because oil refineries. I mean, there may have been a facility there, because Pennsylvania was one of the earliest producers of oil. But it's when she says it produces 330,000 barrels of.
Oh, it
crude.
Doesn't produce; it processes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's Democracy Now!
It processes. Now, The other thing they did, she left out the best part of the story. To me, if she wanted to be, we're just terrible, you would start to talk about the hydrofluoric alkylation plant. This is one of the few refineries, not in that there's maybe a dozen in the country that use this process. It's a process to make isooctane and some other chemicals that are really important to gasoline, and especially in cold weather climates. But the processes can be used with either sulfuric acid as a base or hydrofluoric acid, which is the most deadly thing on earth. And it's right in the middle. I was just reading about this. Holy crap, they're using HF, which is the worst stuff. 1 drop of hydrofluoric acid, 1 drop. You say you have a drop of hydrofluoric acid and you drop it on your hand.
Mm-hmm. It goes right through it.
Leaches down through the skin and attacks the bones and dissolves them.
Sweet.
This is a plague of a product that shouldn't be used. The sulfuric acid version of these facilities work just as well. It costs a little more. It's a cheaper way to go with the hydrofluoric acid. But in the middle of the town, and if this thing's burning and the hydrofluoric acid gas leaks out or explodes, you're going to have a huge health problem in that area. Huge. And she doesn't even mention it.
Well, being a guy who is kind of from Jersey, who cares? It's Philly. In 1866, 1 year after the end of the Civil War, Atlantic Petroleum Company established its operations at Point Breeze along the Schuylkill River below Passyunk Avenue. 4 warehouses were built, and those could store 50,000 barrels of refined oil product, mostly kerosene used as lamp oil to light the homes and businesses in the growing city.
Yeah.
So that's where the 150 years comes from.
Yeah, it's a warehouse.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it says the PES Philadelphia refining complex has been part of the neighborhood for over 150 years and is closely tied to the growth of the American oil industry. That's their own headline from their own website. Well, I
would say that if you're in the middle of Philadelphia and you have a hydrofluoric acid process in the middle of such a populous area, I would. That's what I'd be bitching about if I was a local. Yes. Mm-hmm. I mean, seriously, I'd get out of town. I'd take a vacation while this thing's burning. Come back, your house is like dissolved.
Have you noticed that ever since the pharmaceutical companies got this mandatory vaccination stuff in place in New York, now by law?
Yeah.
That the measles stories have just kind of evaporated. It's just something we want to pay attention to. It's one of those crazy things that happens. Everything got solved.
What a coincidence!
Once we had the law in place, it was great. We all live, and it's all a happy day. Crazy that way. It's just
I failed to note that.
Coincidence? I think not.
And then for our friends in Gitmo Nation East, from Reuters, headline, London murder rate overtakes New York as knife crime rises.
Knife crime.
That's right. 15 murders in London in February against 14 in New York. For March, 22 murders in London, 21 in New York. They're just leading by a bit, though. Not much. We can still catch up, New York. In the latest bloodshed, a 17-year-old girl died on Monday after she was found with gunshot wounds in Tottenham, North London. Oh, that's not a knife crime. How un-British of you. But the mayor is deeply concerned by violent crime in the capital. Thank you, Sadiq Khan.
Yeah.
So sad, man. People have guns. Just shoot these knivers.
Yeah. So we have a couple of interesting things going on in Oregon. The Republicans are staying out of their legislature so you can't have a quorum because they wanted to pass a bunch of climate change stuff, and so the Republicans aren't in on it. They say nuts when they left, and nothing's been done about it. I have a little clip, 21 seconds.
Back in this country, 11 Republican state senators in Oregon stayed off the job for a second day to block climate legislation. Majority Democrats are pushing a measure to make dramatic cuts in greenhouse gas emissions. Republicans want a public referendum instead, and they've refused to show up to deprive the state Senate of a quorum.
Good move.
All right, one more. We got to go. It's done. It's
okay,
over.
let's go. Public access in New York City. There's a big to-do going
What
on about
public
stations.
access on cable?
Yeah, cable access.
Do we need to explain what public access is to anybody?
Oh, people should know, but they don't. I guess they don't. Now she mentioned it.
No, you should.
Yeah, all the cable systems did a deal to get cable to get cable in certain neighborhoods that they have to provide free access
in
to
the 80s.
public.
In the 80s, this started, right?
I'm sorry?
In the 80s. It started in the 80s, all this stuff.
I think so.
Yeah.
But whenever it started, it was the cable company says, we're going to put a couple channels on and you guys can we'll put a studio up, then you guys can come in and do shows. And very few people have done any shows worth of crap except in New York where they had some great shows.
Ugly George, Channel J, the Robin Bird Show. Come on, baby.
Bird.
Let me bang your box.
Yeah, she was naked, and the naked. There was a bunch of naked shows, a lot of naked shows,
it was
and
great.
A lot of crazy ads. The
it was
extra
great stuff. I loved it.
Is for something. Anyway, so let's hear what's going on.
In a 5-4 decision, Supreme Court justices ruled Monday along partisan lines that New York City's public access station, MNN, is not bound by the First Amendment, which would protect producers from editorial control or censorship by the network. Justice Brett Kavanaugh wrote the opinion for the conservative majority. The case against the nonprofit cable channel Manhattan Neighborhood Network, known as MNN, was brought by independent producer Dee Dee Halleck, who said she and her co-producer were suspended after submitting a video accusing the station of neglecting the East Harlem area where one of its production facilities is located. MNN alleged she was suspended because her video contained footage in which her co-producer made statements intended to incite violence and harass staff in violation of MNN program content restrictions. In her dissent, Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote, quote, New York City opened up a public forum on public access channels in which it has a property interest. It asked MNN to run that public forum, and MNN accepted the job. That makes MNN subject to the First Amendment, just as if the city had decided to run the public forum itself, Sotomayor said.
Wait a minute. I lost the plot on that one.
Yeah, these two producers that did a show, they were blasting their own station and then telling people to tear down the place. There was just a couple of bad actors that the station decided, hey, we don't want you on here anymore. And so they did a First Amendment lawsuit, and Sotomayor, who's one of the biggest idiots on the Supreme Court, she's got free as a First Amendment. She wouldn't do the same thing for a university where they banned some speaker.
Okay, gotcha.
But she'll do it for this stupid station, and it became a Supreme Court case. My God.
To be fair, she's only like 5 feet tall, so I don't know if she's the biggest idiot. Just being literal there. All right, everybody. I think we've earned our spurs today. At least feels like it. I appreciate the support and continue to do that at Dvorak.org/NA. We'll take any kind of support. You got ideas, you got inside information, new shit coming to light, you got artwork, you got jingles. We'll take it. We love it. It is, after all, your podcasts. The best podcast in the universe, the No Agenda Show. And coming to you from the frontier of Austin, Texas, capital of the Drone Star State, FEMA Region number 6, and all of your governmental maps. In the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where it looks like we almost have a summer day, I'm John C. Dvorak.
We return on Thursday with another jam-packed episode full of deconstruction of media news and just a couple opinions here and there from two old white guys. Until then, adios, mofos, and such. Oh, yeah. GX2, Jesse Coy Nelson, Daniel Luce, thank you very much for your end-of-show mixes. And stay tuned on NoAgendaStream.com for Random Thoughts 48. Adios.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa.
I did have a bowl of popcorn.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
is something really out there. 3 more U.S. senators received a classified briefing about UFOs.
But our destiny beyond the Earth is not only a matter of national identity, but a matter of national security. Space Force. We must have American dominance in space. Space Force.
They should be very, very worried.
Now, Iran made a big mistake. This drone was in international waters. Clearly, we have it all documented. It's documented scientifically, not just words.
We will know if the Mullers are smart enough to take the opportunity, which is a small window. It may not even exist within 5 minutes.
When Abe was asked by the president, the prime minister of Japan, to deliver a message to the Iranians last talk, not only was he rebuffed, they attacked a Japanese ship while the Japanese prime minister is delivering a message from the American president. Let's see if we can negotiate.
We're going to have the Space Force.
I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. Mom, everyone hit me! A U.S. surveillance drone flying above the Straits of Hormuz over international waters, shot out of the sky by an Iranian missile. This act of aggression is not going to stand. The same people who lured us into the Iraq quagmire 16 years ago are demanding a new war, this one with Iran.
Today, Iran's Revolutionary Guard is revealing debris from that drone and claims it warned Americans multiple times before shooting down that unmanned craft.
I find it hard to believe it was intentional, if you want to know the truth. I think that it could have been somebody who was loose and stupid that did it.
Senator Lindsey Graham, for example, says Americans ought to be ready to fight and die for shipping lanes on the other side of the world. The New York Times left-wing warmonger Bret Stephens is also calling on America to sink the Iranian Navy. Many on the left are for it.
But you may not have known that back in 2007, Congress directed the Pentagon to set up a $22 million search for the truth.
And gleaming new spaceships.
And I ran so far away. I just... The best podcast in the universe.
Mofo.
Dvorak.org/NA.
It's mathematical.